calling all beings.
Yeah! Welcome back to Calling All Beings, everybody. I'm your host, DJ, and it is an absolute honor and pleasure to be doing I think it's our third Karen Read Roundtable, Karen Read episode, specific episode. One I did myself just because I wanted to talk about it. And then why am I hearing me on my YouTube? There you go. I got that off. I guess I had Cab YouTube up on my phone. Anyway, so yeah, I did the first one myself, and then the second one, Courtney and I hosted Sean. So I guess this is the third. I'm your host, DJ, and that is Courtney Mark Asst, my co-host on Calling All Beings. What is up, homegirl?
Hey, what's up? What's up? Glad to be back. This is going to be a very powerhouse panel tonight, so I had to jump in and co-host with you to listen to the experts. The legal experts.
Brilliant people that we're having on tonight. I have listened to, as a content creator for 14 years, I have listened and admired all these folks as guests and content creators alike. So with that, let's bring them on one at a time. And what I did is, in the order they signed up to be to join this roundtable, and we were unable to get our friend Sean ended up taking a vacation. He needed a break. He needed a break from everything, so he ended up getting us Sergeant Murphy. But the first person other than Sean to sign on is none other than my homegirl right here, a new content creator who is going to blow it up. I mean, the stuff that she's doing, brand new content creator. She's an absolute firebrand as a guest, and look out, because her incisive analysis, her unparalleled wit, and she will be a YouTube sensation. So party people, put your hands together for Nurse Kim!
Woo! Round of applause, DJ Scott.
Yeah! Nurse Kim!
Get me involved. I'm going to have you introduce me for my stuff, because that just made me feel really nice.
Anytime, Nurse Kim. You've got so much skill and so much talent, and man, it just watching you, you were just so comfortable with Rita today. I just love that episode. Rita Lombardi on with Nurse Kim, and yes, I watched it. So
thank you, DJ. She is the Canton Queen, and she is a local activist, ground roots level, and I get inspiration from Rita, and I couldn't have asked for a better number two after Mr. Mark Bederow as my
yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like 20,000 views for Attorney Bederow. So he's coming up shortly. The next gentleman who joined us wasn't a scrub high school wrestler like me. He was actually good, and that's how he became a high school wrestling coach and educator in Massachusetts. He is a wildly popular YouTube host, Massachusetts award-winning show journalist and exposer of corruption, and the host of the Young Jurks. So party people, put those hands together for Mike Crawford!
Wow.
Yeah!
You're pumping me up. I haven't been this pumped up since like high school wrestling. So
yeah. I would be your buddy out on the mat. I'd be the guy who just lost and be like, come on, Mike. I know you can get it for this weight class, man. You can get the win for this weight class, because I done just lost 132. So anyway.
I will get that win at 152. Oh, no,
yeah.
I will get it. I will go after.
Yeah. I will say this. My high school wrestling helped me out in BJJ quite a bit. So that I have high school wrestling to thank for that. And I loved it. I actually had a dinner with the coach and brought wrestlers in last year, and I graduated in 85. So anyway, right?
Both 80 wrestlers. I love it. That's
Woo!
I don't know how you do the research. Okay. Like, you really found out a lot about me.
When I say I'm watching your content, I'm not kidding. I mean, I've been podcasting for 14 years. I love great content. And when I found out about this and this Karen Read thing, I jumped on that train. And I am with you guys 100%. All right, let's go. The third person to join this This gentleman right here, former Manhattan Assistant DA, celebrated New York City defense attorney of over 20 years experience, and the official co-counsel of the hashtag Free Karen Read movement, along with his friend and homegirl from New York City litigation, Melanie Little. So party people, put those hands together for Attorney Mark Bederow!
Guys, I feel like
Yeah!
it's like back on the bar mitzvah circuit. This is quite the intro. Wow.
Yeah, and my parallels with Mark, we're both Jewish. I'm from New York, but I went to college in Massachusetts, and Mark is from Massachusetts and practices in New York. So I'm from just up the Hudson River from you in Hendrick Hudson High School in Montrose near Peekskill. Okay. So anyway, all right. Our last guest, man, on my way out to Colorado, I've just moved to Colorado last weekend, as some of you know, and I got a call. I got to speak with this gentleman because Sean McDonough was so kind to find us someone to come on since he couldn't. And we had been talking about this gentleman. And Mark, very, very rightly and very well spoken, basically said this man is got extreme courage for putting himself on the line against fellow officers because it was the right thing to do. So he is retired Canton PD Sergeant. Put the hands together for Peter Murphy! Yeah! Sergeant Murphy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
It's an honor to have you, man. We've had some really great dialogue. I've talked to him at least one other time since I've been out here, and if not twice, and I've really enjoyed it as I try to settle in. I'm in my hotel room here, my hotel room studio. So anyway, so the Calling All Beings Roundtable, real quickly, rules of engagement are quite simple. One of us will start, and then it'll just go around in a circle, and everyone will get to react to the topic that's been presented. Courtney is kind of thinking of herself as an observer. Is that correct, Courtney? You're not going to present a topic or a question or what?
Probably not. You guys are more expert in the case. I'm still coming up on to speed on it, so I'll just co-host and do what you need me to do. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to ask anything that you guys haven't answered before. So it's best to let the experts take the.
All right. All right. Well, I can kick it off, and then we can go. Oh, okay. Let me turn it down. Thank you very much. I didn't know. Let me go to my StreamYard settings. Somebody told me I'm too loud. So there's nothing more annoying. Okay. Check. How's that? How do you guys hear that? Is that good? And in the chat. Yeah.
It's a little bit better. Yeah. It's a little bit better.
Is it too loud? Cause I can go lower.
Maybe a little.
Test. A little lower. Let's go lower.
Just a little bit.
Lower. Nothing is more annoying than when somebody's mic is too loud.
You're good.
You're feeling good? Yeah? Okay. All right, let me know because I have no issue about turning that down. Welcome, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining us for these amazing people. If you're so inclined to share a blessing with us, hit the super chat. We'll get your question answered afterward. And we're going to go around the round table. Everyone's going to present their topic. Everyone's going to get to react to that topic, and then what will happen is after the fact, we'll just have free flowing conversation and take questions from the chat. So just let us know what you got. Thank you very much. And all right, so I'm going to throw out I said you could present a topic, a question, or a hypothesis, and everybody else will react to it. So I'm going to throw mine to Nurse Kim. So my hypothesis is, after viewing the Microdot video, and I realized that a lot of you guys saw this quite a while probably before I did. And in looking at that video that he did recently, where it presents the sequence of events front to back with what he knows and what he surmises, it was a brilliant production that he did there. I know all us content creators like, oh my God, look at that video he made. So in any case, when I saw that, and I saw Brian Higgins with his left hand, and someone was standing in front of him, you guys can correct me hey, thank you very much, Reality Check, for that blessing. We got you started, and we'll get that in there. when that happened, that point in the bar to me, and anybody who's been in a bar situation where there's a fight, it only means one thing. That means, hey, you. He's pointing over his shoulder. Either I think it was Chris Albert was sort of standing in his way, and he was like, kind of like, do you want some of this? You want some of this? You can come and get some of this. Because here's the guy who's going to leave the bar without a girl, and the girl he wants is sitting over there with her boyfriend. And that pisses off a drunk person even more. That guy who wants the girl, and there's a sort of taller, handsomer, better-looking person across the bar that is with the girl that he desires. And so I think he was challenging John O'Keefe to a fight. I believe that John O'Keefe's, this isn't just in my opinion, so I want everyone to take this with a grain of pink salt, that Himalayan salt. I believe that he was challenging John to a fight, and that with that text, are you coming? And then when he turned up at Brian Albert's house, Brian being amateur boxer and all this sort of thing, probably said, hey, man, you guys got something to settle. Let's go down in the basement. I got a gym down there. You guys can settle it down there. It won't be law enforcement officers out on the street doing this. And that's what I believe led to the fight. What happened after that, I have no idea. I don't know if Colin Albert tried to get a shot in, and that's how he hurt us. I have no idea. But I believe the premise of it was a fight, was, hey, do you want to fight? By the point, we all know what that means. Do you want to fight me? You want some of this? And then with him say, hey, you coming? And then him showing up at the Albert's residence, I believe Brian Albert would say, you two guys want to get it on? Let's go downstairs to my gym. We're not going to be in the living room, not going to be in the kitchen, not going to be in the bedroom, not going to be in the bathroom. Let's go downstairs to the gym. Nurse Kim, take it away, ma'am. And then we'll go next to Mike, Mark, and Sergeant Murphy.
Yeah, so DJ, I absolutely agree with that. When we saw the Look the Other Way video by Microdots, it was incredible. For me, that video put everything that I had thought, I could have these opinions or thoughts about what I had surmised happened, but to see it in a artistic representation on a screen, like, made the hair on my arms stand right up. Like, I felt it. It made me sad. It made me angry. I had like a visceral reaction to seeing that video, and it was masterfully done, if I may say so. But
please,
absolutely, when you're talking about them in the bar, which I found very interesting because it wasn't really harped upon by the defense at all. Like, we went through the grab ass together, right? We went through the boys squatting and, doing wrestling moves. Crawford, you can take that after. But, there was a lot of speculation, but I don't recall, guys, correct me, I don't remember seeing Higgins' point until that was brought up in the Microdots recreation, and you pulling that up, DJ. So yes, I think 100%. Also, let's add into the fact that Karen Read had texted, or no, I lied. Higgins had texted Karen while they were at the waterfall. And then, when they get to the Albert residence at 34 Fairview, the text message is received. Are you here? Are you coming here? And I think that is just what set it off. That set it off, in my opinion. I think that maybe perhaps on the way over, again, this is all speculation, but perhaps did Officer John O'Keefe see that Higgins had texted Karen? If he was on his ways going and getting them to the location, was her phone somewhere that was visible for him to see? Yay, nay, I can't tell you. I'm not a Mass State Police. I didn't investigate this, but I think that whatever went down because of alcohol, testosterone, and the looking for the affection of a girl that one man had and another man wanted.
Yeah, I heard I think I heard you say that on your show. It might have been with Mark, but that's an interesting point. But I'm just saying, when you get there, he wanted to show he wasn't scared. I'm not scared of you. You think I'm scared to come to that house because you're tech? I'll go there and show you. I'm not scared of you. I'll come to that house. But and then when Brian Albert obviously would have directed them, let's go to the basement, man. If you guys got something to settle, go ahead, Mr. Crawford, please, sir.
I tend to not like to get like into those kind of next level speculation because who knows? Like we don't know what happened at that house. But the text messages, that's exactly what I wrote down as soon as you brought this up, is that, he did send the text messages to Karen and then the text message to John. So that's obviously very suspicious. But the big thing for me is Karen didn't do it. So
right.
let
no
the
question.
cops figure out who did it. It could be any of these people. It could be, could be someone else. I don't know, but I like to be careful. And I think that the text messages speak for themselves in that video too. Yeah. I think the video, of course, people are going to start speculating based on that, but who really knows what happened at that house, So I just know that Karen didn't do it. And the text messages and the video are suspicious. I can totally understand why people look over there, and it's an obvious place to look. So I think the law enforcement should be trying to figure that out. You know what I mean? And they didn't do the investigation, so none of us know what happened at that house. And that's why.
No, I've said this in about one specific topic in the UFO community. I said I bet my life on it. I would also bet my life on that Karen Read didn't do this. My point, I was extrapolating from what I'm trying to get at, Mike, is that looked like a call out to me. What Brian Higgins did at the bar. Definitely. What happened at the house? I have no idea. I was just extrapolating.
Like grab ass and two, like those two guys going at it. It seemed like they were practicing. Let's be serious. It looked like two guys hyping each other up for something, but who the hell knows? Like we could just be looking at that and thinking that. But I think the most important thing is Karen didn't do it. I mean, that's what I always stick to, and we could talk about the video and the phone calls or the text messages. Excuse me. I think that's important, but I just, I don't like to go to that next level because I don't know what happened in that house. We don't have text messages from, about what happened in the house. We have messages right before they went to the house. So I think that's I like to stick to that. I
love your style. I love your style. I just want to be
safe and smart, and because we don't know, it could be something else happened, but I don't know.
You are smart. So here's someone else who's really, really smart. The official hashtag free Karen Read attorney along with Melanie Little, Mark Bederow. What do you think, sir?
Well, from a lawyer's perspective, you come at this with, you don't have to prove anything. You just have to establish reasonable doubt. Having said that, do some of these facts help support reasonable doubt? And they could, if used in the right way. And so the first thing is it plausible to, believe that Higgins might have been involved in this? And if you're going to make that argument, you need some credible evidence. And it certainly is plausible. I mean, Brian Albert is meathead. Brian Higgins is a meathead. Colin Albert is a meathead. They all center their lives around drinking, fighting, and flipping the bird. So do you start with the idea that this could be whose is bigger than whose and could end up in something that seems so stupid? And the answer is yes. And what is the more evidence of that? The grab assing in the bar. I mean, grown men at a bar. And I think it was even Matthew McCabe who said, "You mean that? The grab assing? Like it was nothing." So it's certainly plausible. The microdots video is fascinating because it does appear to show Higgins somewhat animated, pointing at least in the direction of John O'Keefe, who seems to be kind of laying low, sipping a beer. I don't even remember if Karen is there or not, but it does seem to be in his direction. Other evidence that would at least support this hypothesis are the whatever relationship that was going on, or in his mind, Higgins's mind, what was going on between him and Karen, which appeared to be flirty on the surface, but in reality was probably her pissed off because she thought he was screwing around in Aruba. So I was going to make him jealous. Because you also have to be realistic about things. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm just being realistic. People in life in Karen Read's station generally don't want to date people in life in Brian Higgins' station. It doesn't. it doesn't fit. So I think she was screwing around with him, and he took it, and he wanted to know. And even that night at the bar, he was texting her, and she's not responding, and she's ghosting him, I think was the word they were using. And then you get to what I find to be the most interesting part of all of this. And I don't remember who I spoke to this about, but I always talk about Columbo and the little things. Okay. Because I'm a Columbo nerd growing up.
Yes.
Favorite TV show.
The coat.
And always little things which don't seem like much. And Higgins texted John O'Keefe saying, "Are you coming here?" Which doesn't really fit. I mean, why does he want him there? But in particular, he sent multiple question marks at the end of that text, which is for emphasis. That grown men don't text like 12-year-olds by sending them
middle school
with 7 question marks, unless what he's saying is, "Are you coming here?" Like there's more to it, as if he's supposed to come there. Okay, fine. So he goes there, and Higgins supposedly is going there to hang out. And then what does he do? He actually leaves in a few minutes, which makes no sense, which incidentally would be right after, John O'Keefe would or would not have been there. Mm-hmm. Higgins is the only person who said some other man came in the house who fit John O'Keefe's description, right? You don't know the context of what he was saying or not. But then he left. So he said to go move cars at Canton PD.
Yeah.
Reasonable thing to do after pounding whiskey all night is go in the middle of a blizzard or a looming blizzard, go move cars by drunk driving at the police station, which I would suggest to you is ridiculous. And then you go back to the Microdots video, which I understand, he's putting in some conjecture, like informed speculation, if you will. And I thought the most informed speculation he had in that entire video was this theory that Higgins was dispatched to the police station to monitor what's going on. That makes a lot of sense to me. So did any of that happen in terms of the fighting and whatnot? I don't know, but you also know what happened after, which is inexplicable unless these people were covering up something. And, who's to say what they were covering up? But when they send all these text messages amongst themselves about, they're digging in the lawn, they're in the Asian guy's house, make sure you tell them the guy, the guy, that's their good friend, John O'Keefe, by the way. Privately, he's just the guy. Never came in the house, all the deleted searches, all the butt dials, you could go on and on. That's not normal behavior. Okay. So they're lying about something. So do I think that it actually could be related to what, the supposition is about Higgins doing it? Maybe, but you don't have to know. But I do think that the defense at the retrial, if there is one, maybe will take some of this evidence and do it the way that we're talking about it now, which is say, you can't explain this. You can't explain this unless there's something bad, all of points away from Karen Read. So whether they have to prove what happened, they don't. But there are a lot of facts which tilt the needle away from Karen Read, which is what reasonable doubt is all about. So that's my view on it.
Can I get an amen? I'm not totally out to lunch, but Reality Check would like Mike to read this one. Thank you for the blessing, Reality Check. Really appreciate that, $9.99. So, Mike, would you do the honors here?
I'm trying to. I always have trouble with these because of my glasses.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
I could try it.
Okay, brother.
The first Karen Read standout in Cherry Grove, South Carolina, at the Shack at 1 p.m. tomorrow in the area. Please join us to support.
There you go. So tomorrow,
I did it for you.
Thank you. Yeah, my wrestling brother. All right. So please, if you are in or near or within 50 miles of Cherry Grove, South Carolina, please be at the Shack tomorrow at 1 p.m. if you're in the area, and join us to support. They're going to have a Karen Read standout, and I think this is awesome that it is not limited to Massachusetts. And I would love to do one myself, really. So now that I've just moved to a town where I guess I know a couple people from service, but not a lot. So anyway, thank you so much for the blessing reality check. Linda, thank you very much, Linda F. I really appreciate it, ma'am. We're hoping that we can pay for StreamYard, Canva, what else? Spreaker, and the 4 things we use to create this show. And now even Twitter. You got to have a premium account to stream on there. Midnight Moon, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. In hindsight, talking about how much Nicole likes to clean, that she might have been cleaning up at the crime scene that night. That's a very, very good bet. So we better not knock on that door. Peter Murphy, sir. So what do you, and Courtney, please interject anytime you have a question or comment, please.
I do have one, but I'll wait until after
Peter
Mr. Murphy goes next. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So, Mr. Murphy, was that a fight? Was that a call out for a fight that you saw from B. Higgins, somebody that Sean affectionately refers to as Lardass?
I definitely had some. There was definitely some animosity and hostility in that gesture, for sure, no doubt about it. And coupled with the probably the amount of alcohol involved and maybe some other substances, it appeared to me that was a call out. And it looked like I believe you're right. It was Chris that intervened and said, "Not here, not now," probably. And then there was all the texting where multiple people were trying to find out where he was, question mark, when are you coming, people at the door allegedly looking out the windows. There were a lot of people very interested in where he was and how he was going to arrive, DJ. And I guess the question is, did they want to keep him away from the front door so that the audience of 21, 25-year-old partygoers for the birthday party of Brian Jr. didn't see him come in? Did they bring him around through the back gate and say, come on, the kids are up drinking. Well, you don't want to see that. You're a cop. Come in through the back gate. We'll go in through the basement.
Yeah.
It's out there. As Mike Crawford said, there's a plethora of motive and opportunities for a lot of people in this case.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're going to extrapolate to the larger points, but that was just something that I noticed. I do have a question I'm going to ask later on. I'm going to ask Attorney Bederow about Attorney Weinberg and how cross-examinations might look in an upcoming proceeding if Attorney Weinberg were used as opposed to someone that we all love here in Alan Jackson. But we're going to get to that later. So, Courtney, go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, DJ might chastise me for this, but this is a two question thing because I might not get another question in on the lightning round, and one question might not be ideal for some people, but the second will be, I think. So you can choose which one you want to answer. The first thing I wanted to ask about was Higgins extracting the text messages that he obviously wanted to emphasize for legal and court reasons. I wanted to ask your opinions if you felt like this was damning, and how so, either for Karen or for the legal record to be written into the record, and also for Karen's public perception. I'm curious what you experts think about that. And the second part is, if you don't want to answer that question, the second question that I feel is just very damning is Colin Albert's photograph. There was a photo of him with a bunch of buddies out, and he's got, clear marks on each one of his knuckles where he looks like he just, beat the shit out of somebody. And he gave an explanation that he fell on the ice. And so I'm wondering what your opinions are about both of those two things. Those are the two things that stand out to me.
What was the first one? Because let's just do the first one, and then we'll get the second one in. What was the first one?
The extraction of the text from the cell phone that Brian Higgins pulled out. He pulled out very specific texts that he wanted to be in discovery, and obviously he wanted them to be seen, and also what people feel about Karen Read's public perception of what was in the text. What do you think the public or your opinion about that was? Did it hurt her at all?
Who wants to take that one? Nurse Kim, please take that, ma'am.
Crawford, do you want to go first?
On the text,
Yeah.
Thing? Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead. I'll go second.
I think they intended it to hurt Karen, but I think in a way it didn't, because a lot of people look at it like, just in general, like this guy got ghosted and he's very upset about it. And I think that it kind of backfired on them in some respects. And there's also the question mark of like how he extracted them and like what he extracted. So I think it also, and the fact that he apparently used federal resources to do that. So I think like the whole thing is like most things for them. They think that they're doing something smart, but I think that it's a cluster F for them. And I think it's for Higgins. Like he could actually get in a lot of legal jeopardy, I think, just for using the federal resources to do that. And maybe it even raised red flags. Didn't he do it at an FBI kiosk or something like that? So maybe they have all the text from that. Like, who knows? Like, it's so for me, I think it was designed. They thought it would hurt Karen. And in the end, people just saw it for what it was. Like, John did something. Karen wanted to make him jealous. It's that simple. It's like, and that's all it was to her. And I think that's what it really shows. So I don't think it really hurt Karen. Maybe I'm wrong for the jury. I don't know, but I don't think so.
There's Kim.
Yeah. So for me, I think that, well, I affectionately call Higgins Big Neck Daddy Higgins, and Dave Cullinane has a shirt. Okay. So if you guys want to see it, it's a large llama with a big old neck and some aviators. So Big Neck Daddy Higgins, it absolutely was atrocious. It's atrocious that he contacted a friend to figure out how to extract the text messages because he wouldn't hand over his phone. So then he goes to the FBI regional facility. He goes in, he uses this machinery, the kiosk that he says any police officer can go in. Babes, not for your own personal cases, right? Like, this isn't something that you or your buddy were working on. This is something that you're volunteering to the police to figure out or to provide some evidence for them. However, what was very interesting to me was that on the stand, he stated that he chose the text threads, right, from Karen and from Officer John O'Keefe. But he also confessed that he had talked to and texted with Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, and he never offered that to the prosecution or to police. So for me, that was damning to him. But the context of those text messages was so cringe, guys, that it hurt my feelings. Okay, let's be perfectly honest. I was like, if somebody had presented that to me, I might have said, clink, clink, send me the fuck away. But send me away, excuse me, pardon me. Because I don't know if I could have had Lally and Brian Higgins read those text messages aloud about the weed whacker and about, all the things, and I'll give you what you want. I was grossed out to the hilt.
So, Kim, you're saying you're not allowed to use that kiosk just to hide your own criminal activity?
No.
This is really surprising.
No.
Is what I've heard.
Yeah, using FBI resources for your own personal, not good. It's funny. I just felt like, would you say embarrassed? I felt like embarrassed from like my seventh grade self.
Yeah.
Because that would have been me in like the seventh grade.
Yeah.
Like the Higgins is just, ugh.
What do you want from me? What do you want from me?
This was Higgins. The examination of Higgins on this kind of stuff was a perfect lesson in how not to examine a witness. What you just said, Kim, that was cringe. I mean, listening to him for 2 hours read, can you go to page 54 and can you go to page 55? And there comes a point where you're counting the ways, how to blow your head off rather than listen to this. It's that bad. But to the extent he thought that was putting Karen Read in a bad light, maybe. I mean, but again, I think anybody with a serious understanding of what's going on could see what she was doing. She was pissed off. Things weren't going great. But I suppose if the DA thought it through more carefully, he would have realized that what he's really doing is, it goes back to the point we got on before this topic, is arguably giving Higgins a motive to harm John O'Keefe. So what are you doing? As far as the kiosk and his criminal conduct or whatever, the kiosk is actually the least of his problems that his testimony came out. I mean, no one's getting in that much trouble for, going to the kiosk and dragging in his buddy They have that would be handled administratively. They have this thing called the Office of Professional Responsibility for the Feds. They would punish them, but you're not going to jail. You're not getting prosecuted. The problem that Higgins had from his testimony is, and you could tell, even though the jury wasn't told about the FBI, he clearly gave interviews to the FBI and U.S. attorney and testified in a federal proceeding. And it's a federal crime to lie or mislead the federal authorities. And he clearly did, because if you remember, he was arguing with the attorneys about what he did and what he didn't. And he kind of volunteered that he also deleted text, from his father or something that he had never been asked about. And he said, no, those guys got it wrong, meaning the feds. And he was trying to defend this or that. It caused him to have to talk about why he would get rid of all his personal data from his family. But, I used to be an undercover. This is nonsense. Okay. So all of this stuff in terms of whether it hurt Karen Read, no, I think Higgins damaged himself as much as any of these civilian witnesses. And the idea that he's going to want to come back and do this again, if it goes that route, I would suspect that he would be number one on the list of those people who says, get me the hell out of here, because, I potentially have a problem I'd rather not talk about. So I don't think he did anything to help them. He hurt himself, and at a retrial will hurt him more.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating who is going to come and testify if this next trial comes off. But I want to get the roundtable going again, so in our circular pattern. So, Nurse Kim, would you please present your topic, question, or hypothesis, ma'am?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, DJ. I wanted to first say the only person I have, besides Courtney and DJ, a pleasure to meet you tonight, but yeah. Mr. Peter Murphy, I have been in awe of you since I saw you on Sean's show, and I've never met you or met you via online before. So I just wanted to say thank you, sir, for your service, and that I think that you are incredible. And that's that. I'm done. And
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. And to that point, Mr. Murphy, because I knew you were going to be on tonight, I wanted to just ask about, we've gone into a lot of Mass State Police corruption via Trooper Proctor, Buchanan, from, DeChico, Tully. We could go through the list. It goes on and on. But when it comes to Canton Police Department, I am wondering, do we believe, or what are your thoughts, guys, on if we thought it was incompetence or malice as it related to pinning it on the girl from the investigation standpoint of, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then not even securing that crime scene, right? And the use of solo cups and leaf blowers in the lawn. And I just wanted to get your take on that, guys.
I love this question. This will go Mike, Mark, Peter, who it's really for, and then myself.
I would skip, because I don't think I heard the whole thing. I was expected to go to Peter, so I just kind of
it would just keep going in a circle, so we don't get.
I don't even have thoughts on how I would answer it, so I would let that go to Mark or Peter.
Mark.
I don't know whether people who are literally responding to a crime scene immediately have it in their mind to say, let's fix this. That strikes me as just hard to believe. They don't know who anyone is. Now, they know who lives at 34 Fairview Road. It doesn't take them long to figure out that the man lying on the lawn with one shoe on is a police officer, including from the same department as Brian Albert, which I would suggest, by the way, should have been a curious fact of more interest to the police to wonder if something was going on with that. How did two Boston guys end up in that situation? But that's neither here nor there. But I think the one indisputable truth in all of this is that, and I say this with all due respect to distinguished alumni from that department, a different department than it is now, obviously, but that current connotation of the Canton police as it existed in January of 2022 is disgraceful beyond words in terms of their competence to deal with anything. I understand it's not the New York City Police Department. It's not the LAPD. They don't respond to homicides on a daily basis. But Jesus Christ, there's a dead police officer on the lawn. Do something. Secure a crime scene. Could you do that? Could you not let a few snow flurries and snowflakes get in the way of figuring out what's going on? Could you knock on a freaking door and try to see what anybody knew? Could you secure evidence in any sensible way other than making, essentially memes out of yourself? There are like people dressing up as solo cups and walking around with leaf blowers and making jokes about Stop and Shop. This is on national TV for a case like this. So certainly if this speaks to the level of competence of the Canton police to handle a sophisticated crime scene of a very serious crime, that's disturbing. And if nothing else, it ought to lead to questions about people who live in that town, about the leadership of the department, the competence. And I know they're trying to do audits and there's controversy over renewing contracts and all that stuff, which is not really my bailiwick. I don't know much about any of that other than their performance that day was disgraceful, whether it was intentional or not. And the reality is that after Karen Read gets acquitted or the case gets dismissed, they're never going to be able to find or do anything else with this case because of how pathetic the Canton Police Department was at the very beginning. The whole case was destroyed within a couple of hours unless they get cooperators that are corroborated by other evidence. So did they do it on purpose initially? I doubt it. But, the more you dig in, though, and you realize, the former Chief Berkowitz, yeah, I think the evidence would suggest that he did things as it relates to this case that are really troubling. I don't think anybody believes that he just happened to be driving by one day, with his thick glasses and saw, a piece of taillight that just revealed itself to him like the two knuckleheads from the state police claimed on a daily basis. I just don't think that's believable. He didn't even testify at the trial. I understand he's maybe not well physically, but you can't help but think that maybe he was avoiding process, perhaps to be dragged in. There's been a lot of conjecture that when you saw the inverted video that he was coming in and out of that or it happened there. You can't ignore the fact that the SUV was towed back to Canton. That makes no sense.
Right.
There are state police barracks much closer in a blizzard, if for no other reason. Who the hell wants to drive? But of course, if you don't go to a safe place, you can't, do things like diddle the taillight and mess around with video and do things like that. So when you start to see after the fact, are there issues with the Canton police, maybe on a corruption level? Maybe. Certainly there's the Kevin Albert problem. What's he connected to? He's the one who was related to Katie McLaughlin, who just happened to be the firefighter who all of a sudden heard what she heard when no one else heard it, and then denied the most basic thing just to say, I'm friends with the Alberts. She wouldn't even say that harmless fact. She came to them through Kevin Albert. So you do start to think that maybe something's going on in the Canton police. And the last piece of evidence to support the idea that perhaps once they realized what was going on, the inverted video was disclosed to the DA and the defense in the middle of the trial. That makes no sense. They found it then, and who inverted it? It was in their custody. So I don't think they started out that way. But either way, the evidence appears to be overwhelming that they are grossly incompetent, destroyed the crime scene. And as the case went on, at least certain segments of the department appeared to be part of dark forces that were working against truth and justice. So either way, they look terrible.
Thank you. Awesome answer. Sergeant Murphy, This question, everybody can't wait for your answer to this. And if you need her to restate it, Nurse Kim can refresh.
I believe I can pick it up where everybody else has left off. I think perhaps I should start by saying, if you look at my hat, that is basically the thin blue line, support the blue, back the police hat that you'll see. The Law and Order Mass Corruption Unit is the antithesis of this, meaning this is corruption and this is inept and incompetency. And I would suggest to everybody here in the audience too, that what happened, or better yet, to speak to Mark, what didn't happen that morning after 6:06, when cruisers started to arrive, is something out of a Walt Disney story. A Cub Scout 101, I think, with about an hour's worth of training, would have been able to close the street, call in help, set up a command center. There's just, I mean, I could go through a litany of things, but one point I'd like to make, bring to your attention, and I've thought this out at length, and it was mentioned earlier. Why and where did Brian Higgins go from whatever time it was? I don't know, 12:30 to 20 minutes past 1. Are those close approximations of time?
I thought he left the home at 2 a.m. Somebody help out here, if you remember Brian's timeline.
I'm pretty sure he was back at the station at 1:20, logged
1:20.
in 1:20.
Okay.
So he left. He left. Let's just call it the crime scene, sometime, I believe, after 12:30. And there was that question of where did he go for a 40-minute plus or minus ride, if he was going back to move his asset forfeiture vehicles that were at the police station. What I would say or suggest is he went back. He might not have had a burner phone with him, and he went back to use the unrecorded lines at 1492 Washington Street to with the Canton Police Department. He might have gone back to monitor what was happening, but I think he went back and made some calls. And I hope to believe that the feds have those calls that were made by him at the Canton Police Station and who received them sometime after 20 past 1 on that morning. And I think that was the ringing of the bell to move things in the direction of cover-up.
Lord, hear our prayer that an indictment comes down. So I just want
as far as the crime scene investigation, I mean, I'll be very quick on this.
Sure.
What should have happened was close the street, all hands on deck, call to the chief, call to the chairman of the select board, deputy chief across the street, probably 100 feet or less from where the late John O'Keefe's body was found. He was the one allegedly that handed off the Solo cups and the Stop and Shop bag. I can't understand. I can't go to bed at night and rationalize why call him the second in command on the police department didn't get out of his Dr. Denton's and go across the street and assume command of that scene. And I would suggest to you, if they closed the street, they had, Mark can speak to this, perhaps exigent circumstances. There could have been more bodies. It could have been a crime, assassination. There could have been more bodies in the house. Nobody went in the house. Could have been 5 people, 15 people hurt, bleeding out in the house. Nobody knew anything.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting to me is I don't know about literally exigent circumstances in the sense of like going in the house, guns ablazing, kicking doors down. But to your point, the complete lack of intellectual curiosity by the cops that morning about a guy lying on the lawn with an awkward state of clothing, to say the least, in the middle of 18 degrees and snowing, one shoe on, a cocktail glass, lying in the middle of the lawn, injuries that, they may not have seen the body at that time, or some of them might have, that appeared to be consistent with a fight, whether what happened or not. I mean, he looks bruised and battered. They didn't see, I would assume, the gash on the back of his head. The most basic intellectually curious police officer would have known that, well, that guy is a police officer who was coming back to that house to meet the people who were in the house. They had all been together, and now he's lying on the lawn. Anyone other than, who lives in a world that's not occupied by Michael Proctor's, who said to me it was a car accident right away, which is just dumber than dumb, would have thought at a minimum, well, he probably came from the house. If he's got one shoe on and he's not wearing a coat and he's holding a glass, I mean, I don't think you would necessarily know that glass came from a bar as opposed to just maybe they're drinking inside. There's cars in the driveway or whatever. Go knock on the door. And if anything, do you know what happened? Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? And you go from there. And for whatever reason, Canton, Massachusetts appears to be the one place in America where the cops are not curious about that sort of thing. And when there's a dead police officer on the lawn, it's the only jurisdiction apparently I've ever heard of where it doesn't become an immediate all hands on deck. We're going to rescue our fallen brother and at a minimum find out what the hell happened. And if someone is responsible, they may not have known right away that it was unnatural or it wasn't an accident. But if someone is responsible for this, we're going to find out. But in Canton, which is also known as Chinatown, February of 2022, nobody wants to know because forget it, Jake. That's the way things are here.
Who wants to bet that if there were a video of Karen Read backing up and hitting this man, is it the deputy chief with the Ring camera across the street? Who would bet me that video would be public right now if he had a video of him hitting her? The only reason that video's not public is because it didn't show that. It showed him probably exiting the car and going in the damn house.
I mean, look,
I'll take that bet from anybody.
If there was video of her mowing him down, this would be a whole different situation. We're probably not sitting here tonight having this conversation or having any of these conversations that people have been having in the past 2 years. So obviously there's no such incriminating video. It's still left to be determined how a major media station reported that there was, based on other text messages that various members of the Alberts and McCabe's were talking about putting forth a narrative and talking about their communications with other people, including Proctor. Did they do it? I mean, look, obviously, to go back to a few points ago, these people indisputably were covering up something. It's impossible to know exactly what they were covering up, but normal people don't cover up things they don't know about or weren't involved in. So by common sense, deductive reasoning, something happened and they knew it, and they didn't want other people to know it. And that's troubling.
There's a Houston.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead, sir. No, please go ahead.
I mean, if we go with the premise that maybe some phone calls were made by Brian Higgins when he got back to the PD on the secret squirrel phone, if we go with that, I'm going to suggest that first arriving officer at the scene had probably the most opportunity to take some pictures, footprints perhaps up or out from the front door or the back of the house. There was just an abundance of opportunity there to gather and collect evidentiary information via just a cell phone camera.
But you didn't like the crime scene photos that they took of the snow, like without even objects in the background to show you where on the lawn or where in relation to anything? You didn't like that? Just a few pictures like a 3-year-old, if they took your iPhone, would take? It's disgraceful.
Well, not only that, but here's another thought. That crime scene was at 34 Fairview. If he had a glass in his hand and got hit at 24 miles an hour by a 6,000-pound vehicle, I would bet my pension in 34 years of training and experience that he didn't hold on to that glass. And there would have been tire tracks to send him 20 feet up into the lawn that would have had to go in at an angle. Otherwise, he would have spun. And we know that there was no trauma to his body that would make it consistent with being hit by that vehicle. And the other point I'd like to make is that crime scene was not only at 34, Mark, but it was also him being transported John O'Keefe being transported in that ambulance. He was part of the crime scene.
Yeah.
They cut
Sure.
all his clothing off.
Yeah.
I have done this myself. I have directed people to ride in an ambulance of the victim in case there's a dying
He says
declaration.
anything.
A dying declaration. What if his body temperature came back enough so he said, I know who did it, or made a statement? There should have been a police officer in the ambulance all the way to the hospital. Those clothes never would have ended up in a pile next to Trooper Proctor's feet later in the day and contaminated. I mean, it was a shit show from
So
the beginning.
many-
And it's so bad, that investigation, that in my opinion, it had to be intentional.
Right. And you could even flip the investigation on its head and kind of challenge what the DA considers their strongest evidence. You know, I hit him. And the various connotations. I mean, it's actually very inconsistent from the people and the timing. But the most damning part of all of those, putting aside Jennifer McCabe, because that's a whole nother story with her, her evolution of nothing to what she claims now. But all of those police officers that were on scene, I'm talking literally when the 911 call went in, they're not part of any cover up. They're just there to literally, respond, look for something. And if a woman is running around hysterically drunk, as it were, according to them, saying, I hit him, then you know this as, 34 years in this game, and what police officers do, because they are inherently suspicious and want to learn things, somebody would have pulled her aside, even if she's hysterical, and at least tried to say, what do you mean? Like, can you just tell me? Or would have pulled aside Jennifer McCabe or the other woman they were with and said, what is she talking about? And right then and there would have been the chance for McCabe to say, oh my God, she said she ran him over. Nobody did that. Nobody even tried to
after
say,
the fact.
did you punch him? Did you, smash a glass over his head? Did you back into him with a car? They just ignored all of it, which tends to suggest she didn't say it.
It was an epiphany. It was an epiphany that came later to Jen McCabe. I hit him. And there's permutations of, she said it twice, 3 times, 4 times. I hit him. It just went on and on. So it's just absurd, but they had to make sure it had to be multiple times so it would sound hysterical. So now I'm going to answer Kim's question. This is my turn. Then we're going to go on to Mike for his topic, question, or hypothesis. And before I do, I want to say thank you, everybody, for coming and joining us today. I appreciate it. If you would be kind enough to hit the like button and the subscribe button, you will find Calling All Beings True Crime Unsolved content on this same channel as Calling All Beings until we separate the two. They're 2 separate shows, but we're just getting True Crime Unsolved off the ground. Courtney, by the way, just went to her native Pennsylvania and did a missing persons investigation, and we are extremely proud of the work she did, and it was a little bit of a dangerous situation. So thank you, Courtney. We're going to lean on Peter for our next investigation, and it's probably going to take us at least, being that I've just moved, it's probably going to take us a month or more to put out what probably could be like a 4 or 5 episode series on this case. Anyway, so Nurse Kim, my explanation, or at least my take on what you've presented here today, although I believe I'm a very kind person, I even teach yoga, I am not as charitable about people being, let's just say, not professional or in terms of investigation. I believe that there are willful things that happened, and I don't, because then I have to think somebody's stupid and incompetent, and I just don't believe that. I don't think the Canton police officers are necessarily willful or unprofessional. I believe the willful part of it was Mike Proctor saying, I'm not knocking on that door. And the Canton police officers, obviously, the way they collected the evidence, if you listen to Duty Ron and Ed, they're going to say they are just absolutely sickened by the way that the crime scene was processed, which I'm sure Peter is as well. But I believe a lot of those things were willful. Sean McDonough reported, maybe through Peter, that John O'Keefe's car was repaired. You think that was an accident? That She backs into his vehicle and maybe there's a dent, and we got to pull that dent out because we don't want the defense to see this vehicle and see that maybe it was damaged. So as Shannon McMahon, the former, I think she was a former, Mike, help me out, prosecutor in Bristol.
ADA, yeah.
ADA in Bristol.
District attorney.
She said, this is a thing where we're talking about concentric circles. There's one thing. We're not going to knock on the door because we don't want Brian Albert, quote, jammed up in this thing. And then we start from there. And then okay, what's the next thing we got to do? Now we got to form a hypothesis. All right, he didn't come in the house. All right, now we got to do something else willful. We got to find taillight. We got to get taillight there because the initial officers didn't see anything at all, a broken taillight. They saw no pieces of taillight. So that's what everybody out there who's in this chat right now that thinks this is a load of crap. The initial officers from Canton who had the crime scene before they abandoned it did not find taillight. The taillight had to make its way there. And that is what we don't know exactly what happened. Peter will probably speak to later when we get to the free conversation part of it. So that's my take. Mr. Crawford, sir, your topic.
I guess I want to go to the inorganic PR campaign that the district attorney has created. And I think that it doesn't get reported enough. And I think it goes back to even, like, for me, this is personal. I may be more of a hypothesis in some ways, but I do have some leads on it. I do have like a source. Let's just put it that way. And I also have myself, what they did to me. Back in December 2023, January 2024, the district attorney's office and the Mass State Police started threatening me through one of their snitch informants, who is now the head of the Justice for JJ group, right? And this person is a criminal. I mean, they called me a criminal back in December and January on their little talk shows. I wasn't charged. They were. So I think my thing is, I feel like I never expected, I've never seen anything like this. They did it to Aiden. They did it to Turtle Boy. They tried to do it to me. I went and got a criminal defense attorney, and I told them that I had a defense attorney, and I wasn't going to talk to their Sergeant Mass State Police Tully like Kate Peter wanted me to. Like Grant Smith had been threatening me that I was a criminal. These people are organized. They were organized by Traub from the district attorney's office with Michael Morrissey's approval, with Michael Proctor, that whole crew there, Sergeant Tully, Bukakik. They have gone after people for posting on social media. They have gone to people's houses. They have gone to people's houses who have left voicemails or, emails or messages. This is organized. And I want to kind of, can you believe that they do this? Number one, like, I never thought a district attorney's office would do a PR campaign, would try to recruit people from YouTube, would put pressure on someone like myself, who really did nothing wrong except report news and have people on his show.
And has great hair, by the way.
And they wanted to silence me. That's another thing. They wanted to silence Aiden. They wanted to silence us all. They were telling us not to use Lindsay's name in public. And I even repeated this stuff. I started getting scared. I got very scared. Like, I've been doing activism, politics for 25 years. I've been part of ballot campaigns. We won 3 initiatives for cannabis I was part of. I've been heavily involved in this stuff. I've never been sued. I've never been threatened like this. I've gone after major corporations. This is not like nothing I've ever seen. And it came from the district attorney and the Mass State Police. And I just, like, when I see them in their blue shirts, when I see them get platformed by even, I think, NBC 10, who I think are doing actually a better job than most, but the story's not getting through. This is a district attorney backed campaign. Kevin, Yellow Cottage Tales. I'm convinced he made a deal. I'm convinced Grant Smith made a deal. I know that Coffindaffer got recruited. We saw Gretchen Voss talking about getting burgers. She seems like she got recruited too. These people have been recruited, and they have a fake grassroots group that they call themselves. They got Kimberly Fair out there, but no one in the media is telling that story that Kimberly Fair got fired from her job. She harasses people daily, tries to get them fired from their jobs. and that she has 2 libel cases against her. They don't talk about Kate Peters' criminal. So how do we get this message out to the media, how inorganic it is, the mainstream media, the TV cameras, because we're talking about it on YouTube. People on Twitter know, but even within our, with the people that know, I don't think we talk about it enough in the right way. So I just want some feedback on all of that.
I just want to say I'm sorry that you're having to deal with this. I have heard you talk about this.
Not anymore. I feel very good now.
Good.
I feel
Good.
very confident in everything.
Good.
But this was in December and January, and it did. It messed with me. But once I had that criminal defense attorney, I felt a lot better. And I think that's my advice to anybody. If you get any pressure, don't talk to them. Do not
call Mark Bederow.
Yeah, call me, call Bederow. We'll get you somebody. I will get you somebody. I know enough attorneys. I will find someone. If you need a budget, we'll find you a budget attorney. If you got the money, we'll find the most expensive one. Whatever you need. I mean, that's where I am. I will go to bat for anyone in that similar situation.
Can I say what's a sad irony about this, Mike? A sad irony about this is that all the evidence, we talked about organic and inorganic, all the evidence for Karen is all organic evidence, and all the evidence against Karen is all synthetic, man-made evidence.
Backed. It's all DA backed. It's all Mass State Police backed. These people are backed. Kate Peter. Who's buying those T-shirts?
And how about Turtle Boys Communications? Wasn't there a request by somebody in council asking his communications between his lawyer to be open? I mean, that's also, I think, very, very atypical.
They have weaponized, and I feel like they've done the same thing in Canton too. Like the elected officials in the police department against the citizens. They've weaponized the government against journalists and citizens. That's what I feel like on the DA level, and even in the town of Canton.
I just want to say we're going to get to every misadventure. We're going to get to you, but let Attorney Bederow take that, and we'll go around the table. Yes, sir.
You're right about one thing, because I saw a video recently, just in doing my own research, about another case where the prosecutor with a straight face did go to court and say that his communications with his attorney should be monitored by a third party. And when you say that that's not common, it's not that it's not common. It's virtually unprecedented unless you're charging someone with being an international terrorist who is threatening to literally blow up the world. And there's reason to believe that he's going to use his attorney as a vessel to communicate messages. So the idea that in, the year 2024, you could hear a prosecutor with a straight face tell a judge that you should not allow attorney-client communications to go without a third party listening is as Kafkaesque as anything could ever get. I mean, sorry for all the cliches, but it's Orwellian. I mean, it's right out of George Orwell and Kafka, if you like that.
I like a good Kafka reference with the beetle in the corner and the one.
Read The Trial by Franz Kafka. And that, just the nightmare. Karen Read should read The Trial by Kafka. Someone should send her a copy. To Mike's point, have you ever seen a prosecutor, try to have a PR machine? Oh, all the time, every day. What I have not seen is for a prosecutor to do it in such a clumsy, embarrassing, inefficient fashion as these people. And if they're recruiting voices by, sending liaisons to the island of the misfit toys to recruit these weirdos to, pass their messages along and do all these things. I can't speak to what deals or this or that, but the idea that these are the people that they're somehow recruiting and have gone all in to pass the message, it's very interesting, because putting aside, you mentioned some specific names, putting aside, the towel Grant, because he's in his own class. Look, he's the child of Wendy Murphy. Nothing more need be said about him. That's discrediting without more. But the other people, or some of the other people that you've mentioned, used to be either supporters or advocates for Karen Read's innocence until they weren't. And
Right.
did they find true crime, Jesus and justice, or did they decide that they hated someone else who brings in all the other people that you're talking about? So they're not serious people. They shouldn't be taken seriously. They should all just be marginalized for again, they come from the island of the misfit toys. They're not serious. They have an agenda. They have a knee-jerk reaction to accuse everyone they like as either being stupid or grifting is the word of the day. That's the word of the day with these people. But to go back to what you're saying the DA is doing, to go after journalists because they don't like what you're saying online or in other formats is it's Kafkaesque, it's Orwellian. You're back to that. So there seems to be a pattern coming out of this office, and the way that, they've indicted one journalist, as you know, which I'm not going to talk about for other reasons, but what they're doing to you, what they're doing to other people, that's not supposed to happen in America. Journalists do what they want. They say what they want in a way that it can be offensive. It can be discomforting, but this is a case that's of public interest, a matter of public concern. There's alleged corruption going on here. Most people believe that. I mean, that's what journalists do. And for them to behave like this is not something that you should be seeing in America in 2024. It's what you would see in Germany in the 1930s and the Soviet Union, before the Berlin Wall fell. Not to get all historical on people, but this is crazy that a district attorney's office would treat journalists and news gatherers in that way. But as far as how to get the message out, you just have to talk to reporters, mainstream reporters. And I would think if they knew what we're talking about, what Mike was talking about, that they would be quite interested in that. And at a minimum, they probably would stop platforming some of these people and putting them on if they knew what kind of baggage they were actually bringing to the table in terms of their own credibility problems. So I think it's just getting the word out to the right people.
Yeah, it's a great point, Mark. It's and newsflash to everybody: there's journalists out there that aren't on a television station now. So just kind of get that in your cross-check. As we used to say in aviation, put that in your cross-check. Not everybody belongs to an NBC, ABC, CBS, or a cable news affiliate. We are journalists as well. Mazza, him, even a meathead like me. Peter Murphy, would you please take that question from a...
Okay. Bring that back to me again, please.
Can you summarize it, Mike?
I guess just what are your thoughts on that they've weaponized the town of Kenton against the citizens, and they weaponized the DA against journalists, basically, and the Mass State Police against Aiden, even myself. Katie was just random people on Twitter and Facebook have gotten visits from who was it? Bukaki,
recently.
So what are your thoughts on that? And how do we expose it too? Because I feel like they've weaponized this group of people, and it's a front group. It's an inorganic front group. Those people in the blue shirts, and it's not real. We know what it is, but the media is acting like they're a real group, like they're really concerned, when mostly they're either McAlberts or people that have had bad articles written about them by Turtle Boy for being idiots, for being losers. Like, these are people who have abused animals. These are people who have been fired for, being a school teacher's aide, Kimberly Fair, and said some of the worst things you can ever say on social media. And she got fired over it. Like,
she's a doxer, right?
Yeah.
She's a doxer. Yeah.
And all she does all day is harass people and dox people, and then claims she's a victim, and she's on television in a blue shirt saying she's for justice for JJ, but it's inorganic. Right. All created by the DA, the Mass State Police, and the haters of Turtle Boy.
No, I agree. If that question is still directed at me, I agree.
It is,
DJ, that certainly the system is weaponized. I have seen it firsthand. I have been a victim of it firsthand, where I have had people tell me from the police department, still sworn officers at the time, you really shouldn't come to Canton to attend that funeral for the fallen officer who passed away that you worked with for over 20 years, because there is a target on your back, Peter Murphy.
Somebody said that to you?
Correct.
Wow.
You know all about it.
What's that?
I said, you know all about it. You're on the front lines of it.
And there are several instances that I've been told, I don't have receipts in hand per se from the victim or the recipient of that particular interaction, that police officers have gone to doors, made contacts, outreached in retaliation for, and I'm not, this goes more perhaps to both departments, state and local, for comments and just general activity. The audit, voting for the audit is just an ongoing. People are afraid. I've had people say to me, boy, I'd like to get involved, but I am terrified. I have kids in school and I don't dare step outside the four corners of the page because I know it'll come back.
Look at their Dow attack at Kathleen Howley. Like they're looks like there's like she posted a long post about what she's going through right now. That these women in Canton were sent threatening letters in the U.S. postal mail. They think they know where they came from. This was months back. The Canton police didn't do anything about it, and now it looks like they're investigating. They're actually doing a fake investigation of Kathleen about it.
Well,
one of the people who received the letters that's been a vocal opponent of the Canton police.
Let me just add one comment to that, Mike. And I again, I know one particular letter that was forwarded and investigated by the sheriff's department and fingerprinted of one of the 5 women, I guess, or 6 that got doxxed. I cannot speak officially at this point in time that the other recipients or victims of those letters have in fact brought them forward to a law enforcement agency, whether it be Canton or Sheriff's Department forensics for checking fingerprints. There was a point in time, I believe, that only one letter had gone forward and been brought forward to the Sheriff's Department and the Canton Police Department, and it appeared that they did due diligence to try to extract anything they could from that. Now, as you know, there have been recently 3 attacks of bleach being thrown on people's lawns and malicious damage to property. My understanding is that has all been forwarded for forensic analysis as well. We'll see what comes out of that.
From my standpoint, Mike, I'm kind of sickened by what's happened, and it kind of like takes me back to basic training. I went, and I know, like, I had a whole 21-year career in the Air Force, but I think back to my TI from basic training, and I'm no angel, and nobody on this channel and nobody in the chat is necessarily an angel who's always done the right thing. But when it comes to these critical moments, these decisions in your life, my TI said, do what you know to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you know to be right. And when I was at Dean, I went to Dean College. I was a law enforcement major, and my professor said, we enforce the law and we follow the law. And those 2 things have stuck with me relative to this. And one of the things that I discovered that was really painful in life, Mike's a dog person. I'm a dog and cat person. And these animals love unconditionally, and they would never do anything to hurt you. All they want is that you feed them, shelter them, and love them. And they don't care what you look like. They don't care what your financial account statement says. They don't care if you're fat or if you're thin or how good looking you are. They don't care. They just love you. And that's what's amazing about them. But I found out that there are people in life that will lie and hurt you. I found that out firsthand, that even in the military industrial complex in which I've worked as active duty and other roles, people will lie and hurt you. And that's what they're doing. People will lie and see you go to jail and ruin your life, and they'll be okay with it. As long as they can still drive their car and go to soccer games and do whatever it is that they do, go and drink beers at these establishments or whatever. They are comfortable doing that. I couldn't live with myself. Nobody on this panel could live with themselves if they lied and ruined somebody's life. And that's what I think the other side is doing. And I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing. And I told somebody on Twitter today, as far as Aiden Carney is concerned, I don't think like Aiden and I would see eye to eye on a whole lot of issues, but this is a man of courage and uncommon valor. And I don't care if you agree or disagree with him. I disagree with him on some stuff, but that's immaterial to the discussion, because we need to be able to look at people in the full spectrum and not just try to face everybody. This person's this, that person's that. Look at my Twitter handle. It says BLM, Black Lives Matter, plus love. That's not an act that I put that there, because I believe in both things. And so I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing, Mike. And Aiden is a courageous man who goes down into the belly of the beast in Canton because he wanted to investigate that stupid claim about driving up over the hill that would have shown John ascending or descending stairs, which is just the height of ridiculous absurdity. But he went and did it, and he wasn't scared. Now he probably won't, because he doesn't know what'll happen, and who, as Peter has talked about, who's going to turn up and how many minutes they're going to take before some degenerate is touching his girlfriend in a fight with him. But I love what we all are doing here, and in the way that Aiden does it is he fights fire with fire, and that's what we have to do and try to expose these people. Next person is Attorney Mark Bederow, and we're going to get to your question at the King after we finish the next two court, because you got another question. Attorney Mark Bederow, what is your topic, hypothesis, or question for the group?
So, in full disclosure, I didn't do the homework assignment, and I'm coming up with this on the fly.
Extemporaneous. I love it.
No, it's okay. But
yeah,
this seems to be interesting, especially this is always to me much more fascinating with non-lawyers who just trial watch but know what's going on with this. And so my question is, in the event that there is a retrial, which I don't necessarily believe there will be, but if there were, what do you want to see the defense do differently?
Ooh, that goes to Mr. Murphy, Sergeant Murphy first, sir.
Well, there were a lot of facts, I guess, and evidence that stuck out in my mind that didn't get brought in for whatever reason. And I guess one of them would be, and I don't know that they tried to serve him and were unable to locate him, but I thought maybe Chief Berkowitz should have been brought in, certainly as a witness by the defense to hear from him. I think one other bit of evidence was that there appeared to be no discussion at all about the 3 liters of blood that apparently was never located. You can't tell me that there wouldn't have been a head wound by whatever. Well, let's go back one. There's nothing on that car that caused the injuries on that arm. There's nothing on that car that caused the hematoma on his head and the laceration, 3-inch laceration in the back of his head. And there was no blunt trauma from the clavicle down to his ankle. So he didn't get hit by a car. But he certainly apparently lost 3 liters of blood, and he didn't leave it in the snow, and he didn't leave it on the ground. So where is it? And I don't know why they didn't bring that in. And I will say that there were a couple of things that they left out, and I think they might have left that out intentionally, but I don't know why. Maybe Mark can revisit that, but there's just some other things that I can't really put my hand on it right now, but that's one of the items.
That is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I haven't heard that mentioned. I think I may have heard that mentioned once, but it's been a while. That is a great point. For my answer, Mark, would be, and I alluded to this today on Twitter, because as you pointed out, I mean, they could be gone more to the reasonable doubt, and I think some of your colleagues, it might have been brother something. I'm trying to remember what his name is. He's a attorney. Where's a yarmulke? I can't remember what his name is.
I was on a
you know who I'm talking about?
Months ago. I think he's in Michigan. Yeah, Brother Counsel, is that his name?
Brother Counsel. Excellent. Yes.
Yeah,
and he really is. I think he may have said that the defense may have shouldered some of the burden by presenting a hypothesis that the jury needed to buy into, and that they really took on some of that burden that was really should have been on the prosecution as opposed to the defense. But I after watching it today, and I know everybody here is a huge fan of Alan Jackson as I am. I would want that guy as my advocate, and like I said, also on Twitter, I'm sure he respects you just as much, Mark. But for me, I would really like to see them engage Mr. Weinberg, specifically because of I don't feel that as impartial that Judge Bev as perhaps you do, and I realize you may be making an argument in front of her, so you can't really say much, but I just don't feel that she's truly impartial. She has that kind of towny vibe. She seems very partial to Adam Lally to me. This is just, now I'm going off of, I've never, no law training. I'm just telling you how I feel as an empath.
And most people agree with you. I mean, that's
yes. And just as an empath, I feel that way. And so she wants to be here. She could have recused herself and should have, but she wants to be in the limelight. She wants to do this. She wants to, as you guys and Melanie, your buddy, talks about all the time. Oh, I alone get to make this decision, something analogous to that she loved to recite over and over. And I think that Mr. Weinberg would do a lot better, not only with Judge Bev. I would like to see him cross-examine those specific strategic witnesses, if not, that if you were going to have all three attorneys there and four, including Miss I believe, I would want to see him, because I think he's going to have more favor with Judge Bev. I don't think she likes Jackson. I think that's obvious. I don't think she likes Karen. That's a little bit too obvious. So that's what I would like to see. I would like to bring in Weinberg and use some of that Massachusetts love and respect towards the goal. Courtney, do you have anything before we?
I was just going to pass to give someone else a little more time,
Sure.
But I completely agree with Peter. I think that there needs to be a whole new forensic analysis. And the other thing that I think is highly suspicious is all those witnesses that are all towing the line. You've got 11, I think, or maybe 12 that are all saying the same thing. And so I was hoping here towards the end that somebody was going to break and come across. I'm still kind of hoping for that, because that's a lot of people to have either bought off, intimidated, without somebody breaking for the good. So that's
can I add one other item that I
Sure.
don't think not everybody in our group and our roundtable is aware of. Going back to the original incident, the morning of 1/29/22, I saw the paper. I do not live in town anymore in Canton. And I bought into what I should have bought into, which was the law enforcement was telling the truth, and that it happened according to the newspaper and whatever you saw on the major stations. I lived with that from somewhere around the 1st of February of 22. I bought into it, and I slept on it every night, believing it. And then in April of 23, autopsy pictures started to come out. Aiden cracked the walnut open. Broke his story, and there was a Boston police officer who was a good friend of mine that lives nearby, and I spoke to him. I said, "What's going on at the water bubble? What do you hear, Boston PD?" He said, "Nobody's talking about anything." He said, "Are you watching Turtle Boy?" I said, "What the hell's that, a cartoon?" And I mean, that is honestly when I broke into, it was probably April 13th or something. I have it when I first on my phone. I still have it. The date I contacted Davey and Eddie's office to tell him that I was a firsthand witness to Brian Wanless, who stated to me at the auto body shop he owned that he removed the taillight from the Lexus. I don't know how many of you knew that, but I went to him and several other police officers that I had worked with for over 20 years. And I said to them, "Look, I don't want to see you get jammed up in this. I got a bad feeling that there's going to be a lot of problems here." Other officers have said to me, they stayed so far away from that case. They weren't working that day that they didn't even dare put their electronic fingerprint by opening the case in the computer. That's how wary they were of the story that was being told, or maybe what they had been told behind the scenes. And the point I'm making is I'll tell you the quick story. I went to a shop one day in April of 23, and I said, "Hey, Brian, I just want to reiterate, I'm here to help you. Let me know, whatever you need. If there's problems, you want to talk about it. I don't want to see you get jammed up." He said, "No," he said, "I'm fine. The only thing I did was took the taillight out because they couldn't do it." I said, "What?" I said, "Did you do a chain of custody? Did you do a supplemental report? Did you sign any documents? Did they take pictures? Did you take pictures?" I don't know what they did, meaning they didn't do anything. And my understanding is he doesn't show on any of the reports, doesn't show on any of the continuity and chain of custodies. What the hell did they have him take the taillight out for in the Canton Sallyport when it should have been done in a state police barracks?
Isn't that a great question?
And
that?
Yeah, and there is chatter on the street that there were comments made that there was only one crack in the taillight and one piece had imploded into the interior of the assembly. There were not 47 pieces in large fragments missing.
That was from the Dighton officer that accompanied Proctor to seize the vehicle.
He corroborated. Yeah, Sergeant Barrows from Dighton corroborated what I had heard through the Canton network, that taillight was not disintegrated or shattered. It had a crack in it with a piece inside of it. So from there, do the math and look at the Sallyport. Look at the people that were running around that Sallyport. That was a crime scene, protected crime scene, and it looked like a feeding frenzy in Chesapeake Bay. I mean, there were people everywhere, disappearing, vaporizing. It certainly leads you to believe that something was going on.
No question about it. Also, I want to thank Mary Ellen Kay. I got you. S.A. Spinks, we're going to get you up there in Dewey. We're going to get all those comments up there, but we got to get through our next one, which is everybody.
I just want to add one thing.
Yes, sir.
On that.
Nurse Kim's got one. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I cut into Miss Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. Let me just. Okay. So I feel like this was almost a layup from Mark Bederow to me, because the day that Karen Read, the jury, came back with a hung jury, Nurse Kim went on TikTok and made a 5-point Karen Read road to acquittal. Okay. And this is what we came up with. All right. This was
let's hear
Nurse Kim. So the first is we've got to back away from the third party culprit. We have to. Why? Because we are not Mass State Police, period. End of story. Right. It was Michael Proctor's job to find that out and to do his homework. He didn't do it. Number 2 was the Lexus and the key cycles. Guys, this is bigger than any of you realize, because the Lexus key cycles are what hinge on Trooper Paul's entire crash recreation, right? Is that he says that at key cycle 1162, that Karen Read put her vehicle into reverse up to at 74% pedal pressure for 62 feet in reverse, right? Getting up to 24 miles an hour, and struck Officer O'Keefe in a side swipe, but somehow he's pirouetted and he ends up, in a location that does not exist. But if we could call a Lexus guy, I got a guy at Lexus Ira Danvers, okay? His name is Tony. And you call Tony, Tony will tell you that it is impossible that Mass State Police got the car and did the testing at key cycle 1164, and you're claiming that Karen Read struck Officer O'Keefe at key cycle 1162. Can't.
Because it was driven multiple times after that, including to back to the 34 Verue, then to O'Keefe's house, then to her parents' house, and then getting it up on the tow truck.
Correct. And then they took it off the tow truck. Exactly. So those are all other things. Third, crash daddies. You can't deny the science. You can't deny the physics. Period. We push on crash daddies and ARCA. 4, medical examiner bibs. This is where we get Dr. Scordy Bello and we say, hi, this his Officer John O'Keefe's injuries were never consistent with a motor vehicle accident, especially not a low speed reverse MVA that you're being struck by a 7,000-pound vehicle and you don't have a bruise. You don't have a break. You don't have any injuries below your arm, right? Your right forearm, which were not from a tail light. It doesn't bite. And number 5, this is the nail in the coffin. It was impossible that Officer John O'Keefe was struck at 12:32, which is the prosecutor's theory, right? Because Karen Read connects to the home Wi-Fi at One Meadows at 12:36 a.m. It was clearly a 6 to 7 minute drive at the fastest, not in inclement weather. And that is how we win retrial.
Nurse Kim, you need to be at the table. You need to be at the table right next to Attorney Jackson and
Nettie. I've already asked to be an intern.
I love it. Mike, go ahead, brother.
Berkowitz.
Top that, Crawford.
Yeah, I'm not I'm going somewhere else.
Whoa.
I'm going somewhere else. Berkowitz, it already got brought up. I think he really needs to be brought up for a number of reasons. Number one, he called a journalist. Early on, Turtle Boy exposed him for calling a journalist, calling out, you can't say it's Brian Albert's house. So that shows right there the conflict of interest, which I don't think the jury saw last time. And I think they also have to go to that video of Berkowitz's retirement party and ask him, Berkowitz, did Brian Higgins tell the truth when he was on the stand? And he said he didn't make that statement about how Berkowitz is the guy you go to get rid of a body. Yeah. And I want to see them then bring up Helena Rafferty. Ask her the same question and say, Helena, who organized the retirement party for Kenny Berkowitz? She's going to say Brian Higgins. Then I want them to play the video of Brian Higgins at the event getting acknowledged, but the video was removed. I want them to ask Helena Rafferty, did you ask the cable company, the cable community television, to remove that video? Then I want them to bring up on the stand the Canton community. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that have gone on in Canton between Berkowitz, Higgins, and Brian Albert. They're all buddies, and I don't think the jury understood that, and I don't think the defense made the case, and it's so clearly there. The documentation's already there. They need to ask these people and put them on the stand.
100%. And there was also, I believe, just to add to that, Mike, I believe in that inverted mirrored video that we all participated watching. I believe it showed a female police officer with a ponytail walk up along the side of the car that the taillight would have been damaged on and got about halfway back and made a 90-degree turn or 180-degree turn, pirouette, and scampered away for some reason. We got to find out.
You want to know who that is? Ask them who's that. Ask Helena. Who is that? Who's that in that video?
That? Yeah.
It's the one who's selling the $1.7 million house.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. And these guys were buddies. They were all buddies. They were all buddies. And you skip. Yeah.
Note the time. The gloves are off. 8:41, 20:41 hours. The gloves are off.
All right, and the gloves are officially off. Let's go. We're knuckling up. All right. So, guys, this is what I want to do. We have to get Peter's topic in here. I want to do this in pretty quick because I want to get you guys here in by 18 minutes. I also want to read some of the folks that have a chat, the super chats. They've been very, very kind and very generous. And thank you. Mike's been streaming it on his channel. Thank you. And I appreciate everybody's kindness. It's going to help us pay for StreamYard. Also, we're going to vote on best Massachusetts accent of all the content creators. I've already selected somebody. I'm going to announce who has the best Massachusetts accent. But we're going to save that for the end when we say goodbye.
Give it away, but it's obviously Nurse Kim. Real quick.
Oh, man, Mark!
I do want to discuss the lawyer thing that we talked about.
Yes, sir. We're going to get to it because I also have I don't let us leave here talking about whether you could make an argument. You believe you could argue that there's been a Brady violation relative to the inverted video. So those are two things we got to get with Mark on that. So let's take Peter's question and let's be succinct and brief in our answers. Go ahead, Peter. Whatever your topic is, if you have one.
Yeah, my topic was pretty much my field of expertise, which is collectively, what is everybody's assessment of what happened after the first arrival of the police department, Canton Police, on the crime scene that morning, and up until what appears to be a 9 o'clock visit by Officer Lank going into the house and then abandoning the crime scene. What is everybody's take on that? Do they believe that is, is that something that happened inadvertently, or was that by design? And who's going to be held accountable for all this? In other words, if they had done a thorough investigation, and I guess I'll throw this in everybody's direction, had they done a thorough investigation between the time they arrived at 6 o'clock and perhaps 8 o'clock, they could have found out a lot of information, talked to a lot of people more than they did. And that whole case, we might not even be having this conversation right now. Plain and simple. That case could have been solved and gone in a total different direction. Was there probable cause to seize that car before Proctor had even seen it or been to the crime scene? He called for a tow truck at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He hadn't even been at the house or seen the car yet. Never mind the taillight. I mean, I don't know. I just, there's so much there in that first hour and a half, 2 hours. I just wonder if, when you're talking about what more the defense can do in the next trial, if there is one, if the feds aren't here already, that, I guess that's out there. That's where I hang my hat.
All right, so we'll go quick hitter style on this, so I could try to get you guys out of here in 15 minutes. My personal opinion, you've already heard me. I'm not to be as graceful and charitable as my co-creator of the show, Nathan, would be. I believe once they decided that as Mike Proctor said in the text, this guy's not going to catch any shit for this, meaning Brian Albert, what he said to his high school friends, then now everything has to build off not going in there and doing an investigation. And then it just has to, what do we have to do to figure out how we're going to craft this? If he didn't go in the house, well, she must have hit. So I think it all happened. I think everything that was done was purposeful. I did not know that Lank went to the house that morning. But if they left the crime scene, unless they didn't go to investigation school like you did, Peter, I have to assume that there was a reason that they did that, and it was because the narrative was already going is, how do we not? He didn't go in the house, so how do, as far as we know, he didn't go in the house, so we have to figure out a way this happened without going and investigating Brian Albert and his home, not to mention the fact the dead body was there. Nurse Kim, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, so we're just saying about what we think about what could have been done initially, like the first.
Was it meant to? Is that what you mean? Was that meant to have been done? Is that what the crux of your question, Peter?
Yes, and just you guys could summarize it in one statement. Was that crime scene investigation intentionally abandoned and intentionally debackled, or was it just everybody was tired that morning and really was worried about
it couldn't have been, Mr. Murphy, in my humble opinion, because they did know within minutes that it was Officer John O'Keefe. And I still always go back to Jen McCabe, okay, Jennifer McCabe, as I call her, is that her calling 911, the calm in her voice, and not running into the house to go see if her sister and her brother-in-law were alive or unalived, and her nephew, her nieces and nephews, it make sense. And I just think that the scene, though, that was an intentional, there's no other way to look at it. I understand it was snowing, but to me, no questions.
Yeah, they do. Everybody knew who they were. Lank knew Alberts. They all knew each other. They all knew each other. And they all knew that Kenny Berkowitz was good friends with Brian Albert. So that's it. And you got a Boston police officer. So obviously they knew this was serious, but they left. So why did they leave? It's pretty obvious. It's just like, why did Kenny Berkowitz call a reporter? Why did Kenny Berkowitz drive by and find more taillight? It's obvious what's going on here, the cover up. And the reason why is because of politics. They all knew each other, and they knew that the boss, the guy who'd been there for like 30 years or whatever, who has all the friends in the FBI and the DA and the ATF and the state police. He's got friends from New York. I mean, if you watch that retirement party, you could see this guy, Berkowitz, is connected. He's the rainmaker for everybody else. He knows everybody. So when the boss is friends with the homeowner, they made a decision, and it's pretty obvious what happened there.
Dead Boston cop on the lawn of another dead Boston cop. Not to butcher a Lallyism, but where, if anywhere else, would this happen that the crime scene would not be secured? And the answer is nowhere. All hands on deck, officer down. Let's get to the bottom of this. And the testimony was that no one was coming out to take the scene. So they just said, and they left. And once they abandoned the crime scene, they abandoned the case. So no, that's intentional.
Yeah, I can't see it. I can't see it any other way. It would just be too kind to say that they're inept, because that would reflect on Peter and other officers that they don't know how to investigate. They just very quickly is like, okay, we know what happened here. We got to. And I can't remember what caused the recusal, if that was the Kevin Albert related or something else. Oh, I think it was he hadn't been dead yet. So it couldn't have gone over to the state police because a death had not yet occurred. He was alive when he left the scene, and then apparently was pronounced dead at the hospital. And then it went over to the state police. But I just think they just knew, hey, we can't pin it on Kevin Albert's older brother, the enforcer, Brian Albert, I assume. So we need to find another way that this happened. But who knows? That's what's all going to be in a Netflix movie someday. All right. Attorney Bederow, sir, can you make an argument for a Brady violation? Do you think off of that manipulated Sally Port video, do you think there's a cogent argument there that would have legal standing?
Well, yeah, I think you have that as well as a flagrant discovery violation. This thing was turned over, even if it was legitimate, in the middle of trial, and left the defense with nothing to do other than, by the seat of their pants, very effectively, as it were, cross-examine Buchanan about it and twist him into a knot, and he'll get hurt at a retrial on that with more thought. But obviously, a video that appears to have been tampered with in some capacity, that appears to flip the image such that the important taillight is no longer in view. That also, by flipping the image, takes Michael Proctor out of view in that area of the taillight, and video that appears to show people coming and going. It's like a Harry Potter movie, apparating in and apparating out. Is that favorable to the defense in a case where their whole theory is that this is a cover-up and a frame job? Unequivocally, yes. So, it is certainly Brady material that there ought to be issues, and I think they will file motions and seek sanctions if it's appropriate. But it also extends to, ethically, did the prosecutor knowingly offer false evidence, which is a serious problem? Did Buchanan testify falsely, intentionally, which, we call that perjury in this business? His direct examination was very different than his cross-examination once it became clear that video was inverted. He started forgetting who was who did what's going on. So yeah, that's a flagrant discovery violation at a minimum, and it's an egregious Brady violation at worst. And I think they will try to get to the bottom of that. And I said this a few weeks ago, that I thought one of the biggest issues in the build up to a second trial, and one of the biggest advantages the defense is going to have, is they're going to send out subpoenas, discovery demands, and motions all about the video. They're going to solve that problem, And when they do, there's going to be issues with Buchanan, potentially with the DA's office, because you'd have to believe that when Lally offered that video, he didn't know. I mean, I find that just I don't know what he knew or didn't do. And I don't want to accuse him of literally presenting false evidence, but sometimes you look at it and you say, how could you not know? And but he should have. I mean, the standard is, professionally, you knew or should have known. And any reasonable prosecutor would have known that is fugazi evidence. And again, it's not just the mere inversion. It took out the taillight and Proctor. And if the proper taillight had been depicted, it may very well have shown exactly what the Dighton cops saw, and this case would have been over. So, yes, it's a very big deal.
And there's a Ring camera video that shows that you can see the taillights glowing red. And also, I got to think, Lally, I realize that we're in New England and not England, but the driver of a vehicle pulling a car shouldn't be getting out of the right side, because
Right.
as it turns out, her Lexus is actually an American model. So the driver should be on the left side of the vehicle.
Correct.
Don't forget also that you're right. And a Brady violation, if the cops do something, even if the DA is an unwitting vessel by offering the false evidence without knowing, the question is, if the Canton police turn this over in the middle of trial and what they turned over was this piece of garbage, well, now the issue is, well, what did the police know and what did they do? The DA can't just get up and say, I didn't know. Buchanan can't just get up and say, I made a mistake. That's all wonderful for the two of them. What did the people in the Canton police know? Why wasn't it disclosed earlier? Why wasn't it disclosed in the proper form? Why was it inverted? And you can't say that it's some kind of mistake because the clock is all messed up. It's different color. And you have people apparating in and out, which I'm not a tech guy, but even I can tell you that means there's more than one thing going on there. That's not just literally a video showing the wrong side. There's manipulation going on there. So
You're I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's a very, very serious thing going forward over the next couple of months.
So your colleague Melanie Little had on the tech guy that was sitting behind Karen Read's team that they brought out from LA. He said he has 40 years of trials, and he said he's never seen these shenanigans.
Oh.
And he said that they clearly had to, when they've reversed it, they had to re-import that timestamp, which is probably an artificial timestamp that they stuck in there. So yeah, it clearly was manipulated.
And don't underestimate the significance of the fact that was not disclosed until the middle of trial, meaning it's not like Alan and David got that video in March and had weeks to analyze this and prepare for it. They had to do it on the fly.
On the fly.
It's extraordinarily prejudicial to the defense because they were able to use it effectively, which they did, was still severely limited. They could have just killed them with this if they had the right time and knowledge about where it came from, who's responsible, how did this happen, all these questions that we're talking about.
Yeah, and then with the judge from the Alec Baldwin trial, she made the right call on this thing, but you saw, Judge Bev never even batted an eye.
And remember saying to Mike on one of his shows that what I wanted to see the next morning was the judge say, before you bring the jury out, get the lawyers in the courtroom and say, what the hell happened in my courtroom yesterday with this video? I want an explanation of why it was disclosed now, why it's in this condition, what the hell was with Buchanan twisting his testimony around about it. Mr. Lally, what do you have to say? And unfortunately, she didn't do that, which is, I mean, look, all I can tell you is my own experience. In sharp-elbowed New York, a judge would have been looking at the defense and saying, is there an application here? And what by that I mean is, are you asking me for a mistrial? Because I'll hear you. I don't know that I'll grant it, but I'm damn well going to listen to it, because that kind of discovery violation on something that important at that point of a trial is so egregious. And she just didn't care.
I think she yelled at Jackson or something at that point too, didn't she? That day, like she didn't. Not only didn't she call Lally, she gave, I think, the defense some shit that day.
listen, if I'm the defense, as I'm trying to learn about how to handle this going forward, I'm making all kinds of demands and motions. And I also want to know, not to get all Watergate on Lally, but what did he know and when did he know it? Because he's part of this. He's got to answer for this.
I just can't believe that's not that the judge didn't. That people wonder why people think you're biased. That's why.
I know.
This is the reason why.
I get it. I mean, I'm not. I guess my point was I'm not sure she's corrupt, but she's made terrible rulings, and she's not a great judge for them. Clearly,
yeah, she might just be bad at her job.
Could be
the Norfolk District Judge. If you guys heard her rule on the Birchmore motions the other day, it was while I was actually driving to Colorado. That is a judge I would like to see, that was asking questions, engaged with attorneys on all sides, trying to say, yeah, can you please explain to me why this is an issue? Because I don't think I like that's the kind of judge we need in this case. And I don't know that if they're going to get into with Judge Bev. I really don't feel that. I just don't think, because she's just going to keep every time they make an objection, she's going to say sustained. I don't know. I'm sorry. If anybody has anything, get in there, and then we're gonna go to the folks that the super chat. So if anybody has a question for another panelist, go ahead, and if not, I'm gonna get with it. Wait, let me.
I have one, DJ.
Sir.
Okay to go. To the general roundtable. What do you think the possibility is, and has that possibility increased in the last 6 months of the RICO Act being implemented? RICO being the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act.
I think it's going to be hard, but I think it's increased. Because I have Mark on the show a lot, and it seems like it'd be simpler to go through other charges, but I agree. I think that could be where it goes in the end.
It's tough. I mean, you don't usually see the federal RICO statute used for, other than like the mafia and real sophisticated gangs, and taking a bunch of, if they're going to get indicted, a bunch of knuckleheads and goons from Canton who threw this thing together and covered it up and did this. Do I think that they're going to literally call them, as a term of art, a corrupt organization, and prove that they were acting as a corrupt organization? To me, it just seems a bridge too far. I think these are civil rights crimes, potentially, with the police, maybe some other process crimes related to that. And there, I mean, I don't think it's going to be the biggest federal case, if there is a case at all. There may be nothing, by the way. I mean, that's a real possibility. I can't fathom that the U.S. attorney, for the District of Massachusetts is going to unseal a ginormous RICO indictment, and call what are they going to, I can picture the indictment, what are they going to call the corrupt organization?
The Michael Morrissey.
I mean, are they really going to call them the McAlbert organization?
Yeah. I mean, what if Michael Morrissey's at the top? What if it's the Michael Morrissey McAlbert organization?
If this, you make a fair
D&E
point.
special.
If this is a much larger thing,
Morrissey
in the DA's office and other cases, I still don't know if it becomes a RICO case, but that becomes interesting because that makes the whole Karen Read Albert thing less significant to what they're going to do. But of course, if they were to indict Morrissey, then the Karen Read case is over anyway, even if the indictment has nothing to do.
See, I think that's where it's going. I think that's the holdup too. It's like, this is not a simple case. That's why I think it's being held up.
I mean, look, people have said, and I have no opinion on this because I don't know, but I mean, I've heard people say in a factual sense that the feds tap Morrissey's phone. Now, to get what they call a Title III wiretap application, you have to jump through hurdles like you can't believe. As crazy as it sounds, you can't just have a prosecutor tell a judge, I'd really like to listen in real time to this guy's phone calls. Now, when that person is the sitting district attorney of a county who prosecutes crimes, it becomes that much harder. And if a federal judge authorized that, then that would be unbelievable, and that would be really bad for Morrissey, because that's telling. They just don't do that.
Federal indictment, Lord, hear our prayer. All right.
Amen.
All right. Yeah, amen. I just want to do some thank yous and see if there's some questions here. Peace be with each one of you here tonight. Keep the faith. Thank you, mods, for all your work. The Pilgrim Shadow, thank you so much for the blessing. I really appreciate it. We've had some new members. Patty Watson is a new member of Mike's channel, because I don't think we have membership turned on here. Where are the receipts and video for of birthday donuts? I don't know what that's all about. If
That's
anybody knows.
Blizzard birthday donuts, babe.
Yeah. They're talking about the Berkowitz party. The Berkowitz.
Ah, okay. I
No,
gotta know.
No, they're
Thank you.
talking about Jill Daniels showing up with
We're
donuts.
talking about Julie Albert coming
Oh,
to 34th
oh
day
my
of
God,
June.
not Jill Daniels.
No worries, guys. I'm
They
the
look
real
identical,
expert.
don't they? You know what I'm talking about. They're like sisters, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I gotta know. I appreciate you.
Birthday donuts.
Jill Daniels.
Like
Who,
I
who
said-
doesn't get birthday donuts? I don't know.
Here we go. From Jar, $10 blessing. Where is Broken Baker? Great panel. Thanks, Sergeant Murphy, and great analysis from all. Thank you, Jar. Appreciate you. Freedom Ring. What is this here? Okay. 1. Use more demonstrative exhibits. Stress BOP.
Burden of proof.
That's an answer to your question, Mark. Great. So this could be another attorney. Thank you, Freedom Ring. We appreciate that $2 blessing. Let's see, Leah, anyone know where yes, Leah, thank you for pointing that. Sergeant Murphy pointed this out, but Leah, you're on the ball. Where did 3 liters of blood go? Did the backpack blow? Was it frozen and the backpack blower blew it into the middle of Fairview? Who knows? Or was it all inside the house and they were frantically bleaching up the joint? And just Peter with some luminol would have showed it all. All right, here we go. Third party D makes sense. They didn't know how ARCA testimony would go. They don't have to next time. Is there one right? I'm not sure, Dewey, if anybody understands the context, but it's yes.
What she is saying is it means third party culprit makes sense, because they didn't know what ARCA would mean. And they don't have to next time, meaning if there's another trial, they don't have to make that argument. I think is what that means.
Yeah, they could just make it about the frame up. They don't have to make it like, about who did it.
Well, it's all about degrees. I mean, look, and let me just to bring it back real quickly, because we were going to talk about lawyers before. I feel compelled to say this because we were talking about, who would do the cross examinations at the retrial. So, starting out in the Manhattan DA's office and practicing in Manhattan is very similar to LA. You get all the high profile cases. The lawyers are the best of the best. I mean, basically New York and LA are, for this kind of thing, the 2 places. And so having done that and coming from what is indisputably the best DA's office in the country, and in private practice, you get the opportunity to work with, against, and become colleagues with, the best trial lawyers out there. And I've seen them all in New York, know most of them. And I can tell you, watching Alan Jackson, indisputably, he's at the top of that list. Okay. So he is incredible. And the reality is, in front of a jury, him and David are doing the cross examinations. That's not a knock on Mr. Weinberg, who yesterday was brilliant. And we talked about this, but he's more of an appellate lawyer, and he had a great demeanor with the judge. But Alan Jackson is a master in front of a jury and has the right demeanor for a trial of this magnitude, the right game plan, the right skill set. And there's nobody else you want before him doing this. He is indisputably top shelf. And I've seen the best, and he's up there. So he's going to do it. And David is at that level too. And, they're good. Their whole legal team is spectacular. And just because there's an apparent hung jury on one of these counts, it doesn't mean the lawyers didn't do this. And when we're offering suggestions, maybe do this separately. The best lawyers who are that good are also the least sensitive, okay? Because they know who they are and they listen to other people and have enough security and confidence to say, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do it this way. Maybe I won't. So, if they're listening to any of this stuff, they'll take it or they won't, but they're not going to be offended by any of this.
Okay. So basically I'm off on that then, as far as me thinking Attorney Weinberg would be good for at least some of the witnesses. You would.
Oh, no, he would
not,
be great. No, again,
Yeah.
this is all pick your poison. You're picking at a high level. What I'm saying is that Alan Jackson is like among the best that's out there. And they're good with him doing whatever they need him to do. Certainly in cross-examination of witnesses. Now, they brought in Mr. Weinberg because he's an appellate expert and the best of the best at that, in an issue which is all a legal issue, and of course, which Alan and David potentially could be witnesses at a hearing.
Right.
So that made perfect sense. But when you have Alan Jackson as the trial lawyer, and when he's willing to stay, which of course he is, you keep him.
Yeah. It just seems like she stifled him when he tries to cross-examine and
Doesn't
really.
like She doesn't
like him. Yeah,
No,
just
you're right.
that's what it seems like. So yeah,
totally.
Okay.
And she doesn't like Karen Read, and she has respect for Martin Weinberg, obviously. But ultimately, it's the jury that you have to deal with, and the reality is Karen has two titans who know what they're doing, in Alan and David, and you go right back with them. They recharge the battery. They have 6 months to fine tune, recalibrate, reorganize, rethink, and then they do it. And then they're just going to destroy them at a retrial if it happens. And that's what you do.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, Mark, I think, just to jump on what you just said, piggyback on it, I don't think anybody at this roundtable, and just so the audience knows, that when we said what would we like to have seen the defense do, I don't think it wasn't intended that we were criticizing the defense in any way or fashion. I think anything they did was strategic. I don't think they left anything out that they didn't intend to leave out. And it's just that my opinion was I would have liked to have had somebody talk about the three leaders, but and obviously they didn't get a chance to really bring in the Sally Port stuff because it was thrown at them in the ninth inning. But I think they did a tremendous job. I wouldn't hesitate for a second to call them, for anybody, or myself included, if I got jammed up framed.
That's the best compliment you could say when it comes from people like us. If I got jammed up, and on my very short list of calls would be him. Okay.
If I could afford it, if I could afford them, that would be the only thing that would come into play on that. Alan Jackson. Come on, how much do you think he's charged? He is top shelf. That's it.
I assure you a lot. And again, we can have these conversations about New York and LA rates. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
We get Melanie Little discount, man.
So. That's why, you get all serious for a minute. You feel terrible about what's happening to Karen Read. You can't fathom what her legal fees are. Whatever you think they are, they're $5.
Yeah.
Because you have expenses. You do have out-of-town lawyers who have to live across the country in hotels and eat and do this for months at a time and travel. And it's insane what her legal fees
we're all frozen.
4 lawyers, and but what are you going to do? You got to clear your name.
Nope, nobody cares about that though. On no one that's trying to frame her, Jen McCabe isn't thinking about that. That this woman, you have, I don't want to say you've ruined her life, but she has to build her entire adulthood over again, starting with work, with this beautiful home that she has to sell. I would love to have a home. She has to rebuild all of that as a result of these allegations, but they don't care.
The famous quote is, and I remember when we had our FBI agent was acquitted or the case was dismissed, he made the famous statement that someone else had said, where do I go to get my reputation back? What do you do? And for someone like Karen Read, she's going to walk down the street, and there's always going to be people, always. They may be those from the island of the misfit toys or the online trolls and losers, but they're always going to be just, cop killer, this or that. And the reality is, she's probably never even had a chance to really even appreciate what happened. If you believes she's innocent, then her boyfriend, whatever the state of the relationship was at the end, was killed. And from day one, you were accused of murdering him. So how do you even process all that? It's hard.
Yeah, she's gonna like move to Arizona, like, and try to like rebuild her life. But you can
That's where
imagine
I
this
would move.
woman.
I highly recommend that if she's watching. Go there.
Yeah,
That's what
like-
I've always thought, though, guys, is like that she's never had even a time to grieve, Officer John O'Keefe, right?
horrible.
Because she's been fighting for her life since January 29th, 2022, after the loss of, the love of her life, whatever you want to say, like you say about the state of the relationship. She has never had an opportunity. And as a nurse, and as a woman, and, I can just like imagine, because she had to get into a zone that I need to figure this out and I need to fight, because they're never going to catch me laying down. Right. She's just really, really done the best job that I think I couldn't give her any more compliments of the way that she's presented herself and the way that she continues to go forward and just really fight for Officer John O'Keefe and herself.
It's interesting because when you do this for a living, you deal with clients who don't want to be around you. Obviously, there's something bad has happened. There's stress, there's panic, and different people react differently. And if you've met her, the word I used previously was she's made a real stern and strong stuff. She's real tough and appears to present that way publicly and privately, and appears to be focused, appears to be highly involved in her own defense. I mean, like actively as part of analytically, and we should do this and do that. And, a lot of clients turtle up. They just can't handle it. They just say, you deal with it, and I'm going to go in the corner over here and stare at the wall, and you tell me when there's good news. And she's been living this as a fighter for 2.5 years, getting yelled at, harassed, all this other stuff, listening to those proctor texts. I don't know how anyone could do that and just not want to, the humiliation. So, they certainly have a formidable opponent, from the eyes of the DA that they have to deal with. And you put someone like that with skilled lawyers, and it's probably not going to end good for, the Morrissey people.
Sick. I don't even know. I don't have the right adjective to describe what mindset what you have to be to know that evidence was monkeyed with and concocted in order to get someone to take a fall so that you just don't look bad.
I can't fathom a prosecutor who, upon receiving all those federal materials that they got,
Right.
learns about the ARCA stuff, learns about Proctor's text messages, learns about all the butt dials and Google searches and all of that, knows everything else about the case, and says, well, we're going to send our guy to court. And when they argue about this, he's going to say, Your Honor, we've reviewed these materials and there's virtually no exculpatory evidence in here. And I'm thinking, it's all exculpatory. My God, man, what are you talking about? And you're still willing to go forward in the face of this evidence because you have, a Trooper Paul type of character who, all kidding aside, he's just not qualified. A terrible witness. And that and your claims that she said I hit him are essentially your case. And to go forward on that, in my view, it's unethical. I think it actually violates. There is an ethical rule in Massachusetts, and they're all the same in every state, that there are, it's titled Special Responsibilities of a Prosecutor. I think it's 3.8 if anyone wants to look, but I forget. But it actually says it, you cannot proceed if you don't have probable cause, which of course makes sense to everyone. But it's actually unethical to be a prosecutor and attempt to prosecute someone knowing, or what you reasonably should know, is a lack of probable cause. And when they got the ARCA stuff, I don't know how, in good faith at that point, never mind proof beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't know how they could have ever thought they had probable cause to believe she's guilty in light of what those guys were saying and what they knew that meant vis-a-vis the taillight. Then it was probably put there, which matches all the other evidence that they had about, these guys. It's mind boggling.
And this is not a Massachusetts problem. I mean, if you go look at New York, Brooklyn DA's office detective Louis Scarcella. The New York City has paid out like $110 million in lawsuits, but it was a DA in Brooklyn who found out off of one case from Louis Scarcella of I can't remember what his last name is, David Randa. The David Randa case, Ranta, broke that case open, and now all of Scarcella's cases are going. The dirty 30 precinct in the Bronx. That was
in Manhattan. That was actually in Manhattan. The 30th precinct's in Harlem.
It was in Manhattan, okay, but there's another precinct that had the same thing other than the dirty 30. So this is not unique to Massachusetts, and I don't want people to think it is, but look at the Pinellas County Sheriff. Just the other day, he said they arrested one of their detectives who was helping facilitate drug dealers. But he stood up on the podium and he owned up to it and said, "We arrested the guy. And we're going to figure out all the people, whomever else was culpable in this." That's the problem, is what's not happening. But Dan, I've you guys for 2 hours. I will read the super chats after you guys leave, because I am, and Calling All Beings is extremely grateful for your time, all of you. So any final parting shots? Thank you, Mike. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, great show. Great show.
What?
Thank you, DJ.
Thank you, guys. It was actually an honor and a pleasure. I will do those super chats afterward, just because I don't want to keep you guys. Thank you, Mark, Sergeant Peter, Murphy, Nurse Kim. We're going to try to get you on with Mazza maybe on the 24th, because we're going to have Big Brother Mazza on there. But on behalf of all of, yes, absolutely, he's great. He has a yes.
I'm sorry. We've been making a lot of Wire jokes lately online. If some of you have seen what's going on.
I love the Wire. Yeah.
Maybe Mazza should officially become Brother Mazza. Like, remember the hitman, the religious hitman, brother. I forget his name, but
there was a brother. Oh, you talking about the guy who would have the sawed-off shotgun?
No, the hitman.
Different guy. Okay.
But they brought him in from New York. He had the bow tie. He was religious. Yes. He apparently was a clean-cut guy.
Brother Mazza's in the chat. Hi, Brother Mazza.
Hey, Mazza.
So, Brother Mazza, that's who he should be. I don't know why I thought of that, but if he doesn't like it, it's okay. But there's been just a lot of Wire jokes.
I'll be Sister Nurse Kim.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll have you guys on together, because we're having him on the 24th, and we could try to get Attorney Little for that one. It's one of the fans like, "You got to get Attorney Melanie Little." I was like, I will ask her. I know if she's going to say, yeah, everyone, Mazza says Brother Mazza works. I will absolutely ask her, but maybe we could get you guys on as the big three. You could be the Garnett. Let's see. All right, help me out with this. It's KG, it's Paul Pierce, and it's Ray Allen, right?
Ray Allen, but I'm more like the Rajon Rondo of that group.
I'm the Larry.
I love Ron. Yeah,
Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and what's his name? McHale.
Kevin McHale. So I was at Dean College for that season, Mike, and I remember sitting in my dorm room in the right-hand upper corner of Dean Hall. My roommate had a black and white TV, and I could sit and watch Celtics games at night during that season, and it was just the most incredible basketball, high level, high IQ basketball. As a Knicks fan, it hurt. That's all I can tell you, but I watched the hell out of it.
I used to stay up late for those games too. 10:30 West Coast. Yeah.
There was a period of time where when my son was going to be born, that I wanted his middle name to be Rajon, and I was dead serious, and it was because of Rajon. It didn't work out, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
I tried.
The Lakers probably would not have won that other title, without Rondo's influence that year. So he's a great player. All right, guys, thank you so much. Yeah. One love to all of you. Oh, I have. Okay, so I'm sorry. So Reality Check. She has a question for Mark and Peter in the super chat. So she's not going to let me let you go without that.
I'm leaving.
All right.
Go ahead.
Reality Check. All right. Bye, Kim. Thank you so much, my dear. Bye, Mike.
Bye, Kim. Nice to meet
you guys are awesome. Yep. All right, let me get to reality check. Okay, here you go. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't want to keep these guys too long, but Peter, this one's for you. All right, Peter, shouldn't the LE have obtained camera footage of all cars travelers who were there at the house to verify their leave times and have a correct timeline? I think she's referring to those Ring cameras that suddenly, deputy chief or whatever doesn't have them. Shouldn't they have gotten all those cameras?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think I can quote Aiden as saying that he has traversed all of the side streets that would approach the main streets and making, Karen's way back to Meadows Lane. And I've been told there's hundreds of Ring cameras and that the investigators never, ever looked at those Ring cameras, or if they did, there was no information forthcoming. And I got to believe that I've been told, and I don't have receipts, that there is a Ring camera that shows that Ford Edge around 2:30 to 3 in the morning, and I've been told that's pending. That may come out in the sequel if there is a second trial, or maybe the feds will bring that forward if they come in. But I've been told there's a Ring camera that shows the Ford Edge, which would be very, very incriminating.
Anything exculpatory, we ain't got it. Don't have it. If there's something that shows O'Keefe being dropped off and walking in the house, we don't have it. If it's something incriminating, I hit him. Anyway, thank you for that, Peter. Mark, this is your question right here. Mark, is it possible to FOIA what other juries Fanning was in charge of?
I mean, you can
FOIA that information. Yeah,
you can, but then, welcome to the bureaucracy. It goes to a FOIL records access officer who acknowledges receipt of the request. And then they give you the standard, we'll get to it soon, and give you an update, which they may or may not do. Then they go down their little list of, are there reasons not to share this? There were certain exceptions built in. Maybe there aren't, and they just eventually respond and give you something. But of course, it's heavily redacted, and you get a piece of paper that's mostly colored black with maybe 3 lines on something. But you could, I don't know why that would be subject to non-disclosure under FOIL. You're not asking for the jurors' information. You're not asking for stuff that would be sensitive. You're asking, about where a public employee was assigned at any given time. I guess, are there documents responsive to it? I don't know. But yeah, that's a request you should make. I'm not sure why they wouldn't have to disclose that if the records exist.
There's no end to people trying to put their finger on this. There's no reason that guy should be there. Even at his rank, there's no reason he should be there interacting with the jury when he has colleagues that are witnesses. It's just, I can't believe that people like Kevin can't see this. It's so obvious. Every single thing they're trying to do to manipulate this that they can do, including, what's going to come up about these that Aiden reported this week about those 2 jurors getting bounced that appeared to be pro Karen Read or appeared to be disgusted with Proctor's testimony. And then you have this guy potentially saying, yeah, we got to get rid of her. They just don't have any shame and don't realize that intelligent people see this game. You're not fooling us. I know you might think so. You might think we're really dumb, and there are some of the people, but that's not us.
Yeah, I don't know what he did or didn't do, but I can certainly agree with you at a minimum that a guy who is the supervisor of the Norfolk County DA's office state police contingent, their homicide unit, and who directly supervises Tully, Buchanan, and Proctor, is copied on some of the text messages and all of that. I said this last night somewhere else. The only time that he should ever be anywhere near the jury is if he's under oath in the box answering questions from the lawyers. Other than that, he has no business being near anyone in that case. There's no legitimate reason for him to be there other than being a witness. Having said that, I don't know what he did or didn't do. I don't know, but the report itself was disturbing for sure.
Can I jump in for 1 second here?
Please, sir. Yes. All over it.
I don't know how familiar both of you gentlemen are with the Sandra Birchmore case.
Not that much.
Yes.
Okay.
Tracking it.
Okay, so I'm just going to touch on it, but the Sandra Birchmore case goes directly to, again, more police corruption, and it happened to be in the town of Stoughton. There were several police officers in the town of Stoughton, which is adjacent to Canton, that had a inappropriate relationship with a young girl, took advantage of her, and allegedly one of the officers fathered a child, or was going to father a child, got her pregnant, and is now the suspect of an investigation that was ruled. And here's the story: the investigation was ruled a suicide, and it was investigated by the Canton police in Canton because that's where her apartment was. And I was told by several law enforcement officers that there's no way that that was a suicide. And my understanding now is that it's been grabbed and put into the Attorney General's hands from the DA's office. And Fanning was a lead investigator, I guess, in it. And it's now been ruled a homicide. Have you guys been apprised of that other than just now?
I did not know that. I only knew that Dr. Bodden
Right.
said that it was a homicide. I did not know it's been ruled a homicide. That is huge, huge news. Wow. For Sandra Birchmore.
Right.
Thank you.
And there could be the nexus, gentlemen, between, or why there may have been a federal investigation and wiretaps possibly going through Morrissey's office in advance of the Read case.
Right.
And there was also another case that went before this, Mark. It was Senator Brian Joyce. Brian Joyce was all jammed up with extortion and money laundering and all racketeering, I think. And he suspiciously died, I guess, in a suicide act himself, and never went to trial. I mean, it just seems like the spokes of the wheel radiate out, but they all connect to the same tire. Why would Fanning, just a question, why would Fanning, who was a Stoughton police officer for a number of years,
Be on that.
became a state trooper and assigned to the death investigation where the Stoughton police could be prime suspect?
Should be prime suspects.
Why would the state police be investigating a journalist in a case where the DA recused themselves and where two state troopers are alleged victims, and yet they're still investigating the case and trying to interview witnesses? It makes no sense. But, again, the way the state police, the Norfolk branch, if you will, of the DA's office and the state police, the way they do things, it's Chinatown. It's just,
they don't believe in ethics. There's just no ethics.
How we do it. And, to your point earlier, it's kind of the same thing the judge said when they were fighting over the verdict sheet, if you recall. She said, this is how we do it in Massachusetts. It's just, forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown. Don't come in here and tell us, how we do things. It's how we do it. And that's not good.
No.
Yeah. It's very, they really just need to blow that up, because you just have to have ethics. I mean, you can't even, I've been in government, for 30 years. You can't even give your boss over a $10 Christmas gift. I mean, just because of appearances. And now these cops are donating to Morrissey's, to Morrissey's reelection campaign. I mean, it's
and
absurd.
The prosecutors, too. It's insane.
Yeah, Lally. I'm going to give him, my boss money for his reelection.
I mean, that's horrible. I mean, that just is such a red flag for either corruption or the appearance of corruption, that you're literally stuffing money, even small amounts, into the pockets of your boss, who essentially runs unopposed anyway. It's a loyalty test. I need to know you're with me. Are you kicking up? Are you on the team?
Right.
It's just, there's no need for that. And lawyers should not be donating to their public boss. That's crazy. And the same with the state police guys. And does that influence Morrissey about why he makes ridiculous public statements about, at the time, Proctor didn't know anyone, or these are all good people, and all these other ridiculous things that he says? You can't help but wonder, with how close are they, and whether it's politically, personally, and it's just one big apparent cesspool, the way people look at it, and the contributions just make that worse.
Yeah, well, I've had two people. I'll end with this, or at least I'll add this.
Yeah.
I've had two people come to me in the last couple of weeks from two different venues that said they bumped into DA Morrissey, and one of the contacts was made, I guess, with Tully as well at a bar, and they brought up Tully and Morrissey brought up the conversation about what do you think about the Karen Read trial, and where are you from, what county? No, I don't live in Norfolk County. Oh, well, what do you think? You'd be a good source to sound from. I think she's innocent. Oh, well, no, she's guilty. Can I buy you a drink? It gets better. It gets better. Supposedly, recently, a conversation took place, and he indicated, Morrissey, that same type of sounding, you know, little cursory, hi, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. You must know who I am. What do you think about the case? Well, she's innocent. Really? No, she's guilty, and you'll see.
Yeah.
He didn't know who these people were. I mean, this was just street talk.
Yeah, he's just they're dishonest people, and people. You just understand the human condition. You know that people have the ability to frame someone and see them go to jail and sleep like a baby.
And everything they do, again, breeds corruption. I mean, when you have a DA who is basically, if he wants to be, maybe not now with this case, but you get the point, DA for life, and can sit up there on the big chair, run unopposed, but still runs his campaign, still collects money, makes bank, gives it to other candidates because he doesn't need it, and does all these things. And you just become, you just become lazy, you become arrogant, and you become, in certain cases, corrupt. And you do what you want. You think you can get away with anything. And, right down to just having conversations in bars, telling people and buying them drinks and collecting money from subordinates and just whatever. We'll just keep going, and no one's ever going to challenge me. And I'm never going to be really accountable to the voters. I mean, not practically. I mean, be honest. He is politically a hack's hack, right? I mean, he is the quintessential. Has he ever had a job that does not involve? When is the last time he worked in the private sector? It's all politics. It's all, the Quincy machine or whatever it is. And he's a delegate for all the national. It's all politics. And when the DA's office is all about politics, that's not a good sign, because it ought to be about justice.
I think we'll end it there, gentlemen. I can't thank you enough for your time. Peter, meeting you, now Mark, meeting you. And it was an honor to have you on Calling All Beings TCU. And I look forward to inviting you both back again. Sure. So thank you.
I appreciate it. It was great. I met Mark a couple of weeks ago up in Dedham when he came up with Melanie. And it was great to see him, great to meet him. And I would like to just offer, I'd like to exchange offline here at some point through either DJ or whatever, just a way to communicate with everybody that was at the round table tonight via text or email or something. So we'll leave it at that request.
Yep. Excellent. I can send you, Mark, I've got yours, and I can send Peter, I can share that. I don't have Nurse Kim nor Mike, but I'm sure they would share it with you, but I can definitely get you Mark.
Thank you.
And on behalf of all of Calling All Beings, all the people in the chat, and everybody, we say thank you very much.
We do.
All right.
Have
Take
a good
care,
one.
guys.
Take care.
Stay safe.
Bye.